Hi, everybody. Steve Paikin here. The world is changing fast, eh? I'm not sure I've ever experienced anything like it in my 40-plus years of journalism. Where does Canada fit in all of this? From federal politics to foreign policy to in-depth one-on-one interviews, we'll try to help you understand this uncertain era in which we now find ourselves. The Paikin Podcast. Find us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Everybody's doing a brand new dance now. Come on, baby, do the locomotion. I know you'll get to like it if you give it a chance now. Come on, baby, do the locomotion. My little baby says you can do it with ease. It's easier than learning your ABCs. So come on and do the locomotion with me. You got to swing.
I mean, who could resist a little bit of Grand Funk, as in the Grand Funk Railroad, which began on this day in 1974, a 2-week...
Craving the coffee flavor you love, but without the caffeine? Kachava's got you covered with their newest coffee flavor. This all-in-one nutrition shake delivers bold, authentic flavor, crafted from premium decaffeinated Brazilian beans. With 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, and so much more. Treat yourself to the flavor and nutrition your body craves. Go to Kachava.com and use code NEWS. New customers get 15% off their first order. That's KACHAVA.com, code NEWS.
Run at number 1 on the U.S. singles chart with their version of Little Eva's hit, The Locomotion. That marked this day in 1974 only the second time that a cover version had been a number 1 as well as the original. So Little Eva makes Locomotion a number 1. Grand Funk also makes it a number 1. Second time ever that such a thing happened. The first time that happened, Go Away Little Girl, which was a number 1 for Steve Lawrence in 1962, and then Donny Osmond in 1971. Here's the thing. That has happened 7 other times. The original and then the cover reaching number 1 on the U.S. singles charts. Do you think you know any of the other 7 cover songs that also went to number 1? Hey, I'll give you an answer before 9:30, but if you think you know, drop me an email, mike@570news.com, or by all means, give us a call. One of the other 7 songs that went number 1 as originals and as covers. A very good Monday morning to you. This 4th of May. May the 4th be with you. Here we are into a new month. And I know, judging by the phone lines, and I'm going to get right to them, but I think you are, like me, still feeling the full weight of what happened on Friday night at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. For the first time in 18 years, our Kitchener Rangers, well, they went and done something special, didn't they? And, you know, the morning after the night before when the Rangers play, okay, so they played Friday, but we haven't been here. We don't come to work on Saturdays and Sundays around these here parts. So because they played on Friday, and this is our next show since, we don't get the chance for some JP on 570, Jack Pridham. He did not score a goal on Friday night, but Dylan Edwards did. They call him Eddie. So here's your little bit this morning of Eddie 570.
Broken up at the Ranger line. Cameron Reed's got it for Kitchener. Up ice, Luca Romano. Romano into the zone to Edwards. Edwards scores! Dylan Edwards ends it in overtime! And the 18-year wait in Kitchener is over. The Western Conference crown will be worn by the Rangers.
Oh, listen to that crowd. A playoff high of more than 7,300 on Friday night. And Dylan Edwards, a.k.a. Eddie, a little Eddie 5 SETI for you this Monday morning, as the kid that started the season in Erie, was acquired by the Rangers in December, scores the overtime winner to make the Kitchener Rangers Western Conference champions. You gotta love it. And who will the Rangers face in the OHL championship? More on that in the Farwell Show 5. But let's get to those phones. They are very busy starting our Monday morning. We'll begin with Kevin. Good morning, Kevin.
Hi, good morning, Mike. Congratulations to all residents of Kitchener and all Kitchener Rangers. What a game. What a show of resilience. What a show of hard work. And that was amazing. I just couldn't stand on my feet, but amazing. Great job. Great job. I just wanted to give my gratitude for the whole organization and especially the players who put an amazing job. It's more exciting to watch the Rangers nowadays than watching any kind of NHL games. So, I mean, way to go, guys. And by the way, Mike, where can I get one of those championship hats? Are they for sale somewhere?
I have not yet seen them for sale, Kevin, but I'm sure there will be something, if not identical, similar for sale at some point soon, because who wouldn't want a championship ball cap, right?
Absolutely. I would want one for sure. I'll pay for it.
I know. All right, Kevin, thanks for the call. I appreciate you recognizing the city, too, generally here. I mean, we've waited a long time for this, and the fans are so passionate, sometimes impatient, but it's been 18 years after all. And yes, those players, how about this? Not one of those players, not one of them touched the trophy for winning the Western Conference Championship. They gathered around it for a photo out at center ice, but they did not touch the trophy. They know that the work is not yet done. There's another trophy that they would very much like to win. The OHL finals begin on Wednesday night. And this is your home for Kitchener Rangers hockey, your home of the OHL's Western Conference champion Kitchener Rangers. We'll bring you all the action when it begins on Wednesday night. I expected this call would come in this morning from my good friend, Chef D. Good morning, Chefy. You probably don't want to talk about the Kitchener Rangers, do you?
Well, congratulations. That's, I do love my region.
Well, that's all that matters then. So have a great day, Chefy.
No, we're not done, Mr. Farwell. I was walking around the Scotiabank Center on Saturday and looking for a certain hockey team. Oh, right, they're not playing. But a certain hockey team that I can't say on your radio station is in the second round, Mike.
Sheffy, let me share with you something I found on Twitter this morning. Or X, whatever we call this nonsense now. And it is nonsense. It's a cesspool. But let me just share this with you, okay? The Buffalo Sabres sing along to O Canada. Love Labatt's and Tim Hortons. Welcome everyone from across the border. The team that shall not be named lives in a province that tried to separate from Canada, eats St. Hubert's or something like that, and will send you to jail if you speak English. I know who Canada's team is.
Oh, you are so wrong.
It's from the X pool, okay? The cesspool of X pool. Anyway, listen, Sheffy, because you're a friend, I'm happy for you. Okay. I am. I want everybody should have their sports team be successful. I'm just so glad I've got the Kitchener Rangers because my Leafs are an absolute dog's breakfast.
And how do you hire two people that don't have experience? Anyways, that's a whole other story for another day, and there's other people that want to talk about our amazing Rangers. So, Mr. Farwell, go team that cannot remain named, go.
Enjoy it, Sheffy. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. I love how he plays by the rules, too. He is a passionate fan of that goofy, ugly team that shall not be named. But I am happy for Sheffy, just like I'm happy for my beloved and my brother-in-law and my best friend, all of whom cheer for the team that shall not be named. We're having a guy come into the studio today around 10:45 to talk about Hockey Helps the Homeless. He is a mad fan of the team that shall not be named. And I swear, if he shows up wearing what I think he's going to show up wearing, forget about it. I might not let him in the studio. But what are you supposed to say? What are you supposed to say? They won. They're into round 2. That's what you got to say. And one of my coworkers came down the hall just before I came on the air this morning. He said, as an Ottawa Senators fan, I would just like to thank you and the rest of the Leafs fans for doing the most Maple Leafs thing ever. Let's hire a former player who's got zero front office experience and make him a senior consultant advisor sort of guy. Cool. I like Matt Sundin, but what experience does he have building a winning hockey program? And then, oh yeah, let's get a general manager who completely messed up the former Phoenix, now Arizona Coyotes organization, got suspended by the NHL for a year because of the shenanigans he got up to. And let's make him your new general manager. Great idea, Toronto Maple Leafs. Great idea. Andre is with us early this Monday morning on the show. Good morning, Andre.
Good morning, Mike. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Next time you put you online to yell like that because you sound like Cal, give me a warning so I can turn my phone down, Mike.
What did I sound like?
Well, you were loud.
Oh, I was loud. Yeah, the arena was loud too. It was pretty exciting.
Yes, very. They are a champion. You know what I mean? Like they were losing, they came back, and then overtime, and it's just unreal. But it is what it is, and we want further. I'm a little disappointed, Mike, that they didn't touch the Wayne Gretzky Trophy, because to me, in my heart, that means a lot. I know to you too. I know what's happening.
No, I love that they didn't touch it. I love that they didn't touch it.
So, a question. Now, are they, at the end of it, are they going to do kind of like a parade with the Wayne Gretzky so that fans can touch it too?
No, and Andre. Okay, and your last point. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, my last point, Mr. Paul Fixie, you should be very proud of your old team. 9 goals, amazing. I would really love that Farwell listens to the Buffalo and the other team versus Colorado. That is my dream.
All right, Andre. Yes, Fixie used to be a coach, cut a couple of Stanley Cup rings with the Colorado Avalanche. Andre, as usual, all over the ding-dang map. Let's just slow our roll when it comes to a parade. If the Kitchener Rangers claim the ultimate junior hockey prize, I'd be shocked if there wasn't a parade. I also hope, by the way, just thinking on this, and again, I love that the team didn't even bother touching the Wayne Gretzky Trophy for winning the Western Conference Championship. There's more work still to be done. I hope our mayor had a bet with the mayor of Windsor, and now our mayor is going to receive some delicious Windsor pizza because the Rangers knocked off the Spitfires. Isn't that the way it should go? That's the way it should go. Doug, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. I got to ask you a question. Tell me, you were on the edge of your seat like the rest of us, weren't you?
I'll tell you what. I don't know what it is with the Windsor Spitfires and 3-0 leads on the Kitchener Rangers. They led 3-0 in games last year, and we came back and beat them. They led 3-0 in the first period on Friday night, and we came back and beat them. I honestly, Doug, wasn't too worried at all when it was 3-0 because it was still early in the game. I did get a little worried when Windsor scored late in the second and made it 4-2 going to the third. Then I was a little bit nervous.
But that was your commercial earlier in the year about coming all the way back to 3-0 down. This team's never, ever given up. That's the one thing I've noticed every time you hear your play-by-play. They keep pushing, they keep trying, and they never stop. And that to me is the sign of a team that's got some place to go. And as for not touching the trophy, that's a superstition. It was all the way back to even the NHL. That's the overall points trophy, and wind up getting bumped out in the first round. You know, they don't want to touch that because there's more work to be done. That's not the trophy you want. It's the other trophy, the big trophy.
Yes, you're right about that. And you're talking about the overall points, the President's Trophy. I'm not even sure that's a presentation of any kind. It might be. But yes, there seemed to be a curse with being the team that finished with the most points in the NHL regular season. But the superstition that Doug really is getting at here is the one where teams would win their conference in the NHL, the Eastern or Western Conference, and not touch I think it was the Campbell Trophy and the Wales Trophy, right? You wouldn't touch that because you wanted the Stanley Cup. That's the trophy you wanted to touch and lift and celebrate with your teammates with. I love the passion for the Kitchener Rangers. They deserve every bit of this, every bit of it. These guys have worked so damn hard for so damn long. I know they got some time off over the weekend to rest, recover, and reflect on the season so far, and I guarantee they're getting up right now, putting their work boots on, grabbing their lunch pails, and getting ready to go back to the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium to begin practice and to put in the work to be ready for Wednesday night. Jason is with us this morning. Good morning, Jay.
Good morning, Mike.
What's on your mind?
I'm not too sure about. It doesn't really matter. I think who you put in the office with the Leafs. I think they're still going to sell tickets.
I hope they don't. We got to stop this. We got to stop it.
It just that's just the way the Leafs Nation works. Is they'll continue to sell tickets no matter who's in the office. That Barrie Colts game on Saturday night. What a game! I got a chance to take it in, and I think the Rangers' hands are definitely going to be full come championship series because neither one of these teams want to quit, and we're gonna be in for a good game 7 today. I think. I agree. We're definitely looking forward to an exciting championship series. I think it doesn't matter who the Rangers get; their hands are going to be full, and I hope we come out on top at the end of the day. But it's definitely going to be a good series.
Jason, appreciate the call. That's the way it should be at this time of year, right? You got the best teams left. I'm going to get in one more before your Farwell Show 5. Bill, good morning.
Hi, Mike. I have a question for you also regarding the Rangers and the playoff setup. If Barrie would beat Brantford tonight, does the Rangers then become the home team?
Bill, that is a great question. I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, okay? Okay, just hang in there for the Farwell Show 5 because your answer is coming up.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, Bill. And you know what? Let's get right to that then because I got the answer for you.
1, 2, 3, 4. Can I have a little more? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I love you.
5 things that you might want to know as you embark on your Monday journey. Starting at number 1, Waterloo MPP Catherine Fife is holding a media conference this morning at 10 a.m. to discuss her private member's bill, Lydia's Law, in light of the decision a little more than a week ago in the Jeffrey Sloka sexual assault trial. Fife will be joined by a family member of a Sloka sexual assault survivor and Sarah Castleman, executive director of the Sexual Assault Support Center of Waterloo Region. The media conference happens today, again, at 10 a.m., so about 45 minutes from now at Queen's Park. Number 2, we are learning more this morning about a new deal reached between the region of Waterloo and Grand River Transit workers, represented by Unifor. That includes just over 800 GRT operators, technicians, and attendants who ratified the deal yesterday. The 3-year agreement includes what the union is calling, quote, significant wage and benefit increases, specifically when it comes to coverage for older workers between the ages of 67 and 75. The new agreement will be in effect until April of 2029. Number 3, on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, regional police continue working with area municipalities to install CCTV cameras to help solve crimes. The idea here is for police to set up 52 cameras across 10 locations in the region, hoping those cameras can help them retroactively review footage and aid in investigations. They'll also be equipped with license plate readers, but police say these are not speed cameras and they will not be live monitored. Agreements in place already with Waterloo and North Dumfries. Those agreements allow the police service use of the hydro poles. A report coming to the region of Waterloo tomorrow shows 6 locations: downtown Galt, Hespler Road, downtown Kitchener, Fairview Mall, uptown Waterloo, and the intersection of King and University. Number 4, Prime Minister Mark Carney says it is his strong personal view that the international order will be rebuilt and that it will be rebuilt out of Europe. He made the comments this morning in Armenia, where he's attending the European Political Community Summit. The gathering is focused on strategic cooperation in politics, security, and infrastructure. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, getting to the question that Bill just asked. Bill is on the ball. Let's get to the answer. First of all, how about those Cambridge Redhawks? They are Sutherland Cup champions, beating St. Mary's 4-3 in overtime on Saturday. and taking the championship in 5 games. The Red Hawks lost only 1 game in the playoffs, finishing 16-1 and winning the GOHL Championship Sutherland Cup. The Red Hawks even got a shout-out from Ron McLean and Kevin Bieksa on Hockey Night in Canada over the weekend. Now, in the Ontario Hockey League, the Eastern Conference Championship and the battle for the Bobby Orr Trophy comes down to a Game 7 tonight in Brantford. The Bulldogs led their series over the Barrie Colts 3-1. But Barrie has won back-to-back overtime games, including on Saturday, the game that Jason referenced a moment ago, a terrific game up in Barrie. So we've got the Game 7 tonight in Brantford. Here's how it shakes down, getting to the question that Bill asked. If the Brantford Bulldogs win Game 7 tonight and the Bobby Orr Trophy for the Eastern Conference in the OHL, the Kitchener Rangers will start the OHL final in Brantford on Wednesday night. So if Brantford wins, they are the number 1 seed and the home team for the OHL final. If Barrie wins tonight, the Kitchener Rangers will open the OHL final on home ice on Wednesday night because Kitchener will be the number 1 seed and have home ice advantage over the Barrie Colts. So Rangers fans, I ask you, do you want your team to have home ice advantage in the OHL final that starts on Wednesday? Then you're cheering tonight for the Barrie Colts. If you don't care, then just enjoy a good hockey game. But home ice would be pretty special. So I think there are a lot of Barrie Colts fans in Kitchener today. Regardless, the OHL final opens on Wednesday night, and we will have all of the action, whether we're traveling to Brantford for the game or we're at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. Every game of the OHL final will be heard right here on your home of the Western Conference champion, Kitchener Rangers. That, of course, is 570 News Radio.
You go to the box, you feel shame.
And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Monday morning. We started the show today with a little bit of Grand Funk Railroad singing The Locomotion, which was a number 1 hit for Little Eva before Grand Funk made it a number 1 in 1974. And that was only the second time in music history that a cover version of a song reached number 1 just like the original did. The first time that happened was Donny Osmond in 1971 when he took the song Go Away Little Girl to number 1 on the charts. Steve Lawrence did it first back in 1962. There are 7 other occasions that I could find where a song was number 1 as the original and then made a number 1 again as a cover tune. Do you think you know any of the other 7? You want to take a wild stab at it? A song that was a number 1 originally for the original artist and then a number 1 again when it was covered by another artist. 7 songs, 7 more have done that, along with Go Away Little Girl and The Locomotion. If you think you know any of the other 7, give me a shout on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio. Thanks to Colin for the guess. All Along the Watchtower by Bob Dylan, then Jimi Hendrix. Not number 1s for both, Colin, but I appreciate the guess. Hendrix may have gotten there with his version. Nonetheless, the 7 other songs that I could find that were number 1s as the original and then as the cover. Please, Mr. Postman. The Marvelettes made it number 1 in 1961. The Carpenters did it in 1975. Venus by Shocking Blue, a number 1 in 1970, and then by Bananarama in 1986. You'll remember this one, Lean on Me by Bill Withers in 1972, and then by Club Nouveau in 1987. You Keep Me Hanging On by The Supremes was a number 1 in 1966, and then again with Kim Wilde in 1987. Another one I'm sure you'll remember, When a Man Loves a Woman. Percy Sledge made it a number 1 in 1966, and Michael Bolton did it again in 1991. I'll Be There by the Jackson 5 was a number 1 in 1970, and again in 1992 when Mariah Carey covered it. And how about Lady Marmalade by LaBelle in 1965, and then the collab with Christina Aguilera, Lil' Kim, Maya, and Pink in 2001 from the Moulin Rouge soundtrack. There you go. Songs that were number ones as originals and number ones as cover tunes. Off to the 570 News Center we go for an update. And then we are into a municipal election year. The candidates have already declared their intentions. What should we as voters be considering as we head towards that October 26th municipal election? We talk about that next on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio. It is a municipal election year, don't you know? And it didn't take long for folks to begin letting us know their intentions for the October 26th election. There will be a new mayor in Woolwich Township because Sandy Shantz has announced that after 3 terms, she will not be running again. There will be 2 new councillors at least in Waterloo because councillors Royce Bodley, Ward 2, and Jen Vasic, Ward 5, have decided to not run again. And we've got legit mayoral races shaping up. In Wilmot, for sure, incumbent Natasha Salonen has declared her intentions to run for a second term. Chris Wilkinson, who's a current councillor in Wilmot, is going to run for mayor. And Steph Gertz, who has run before for the Green Party federally, is also in the mayoral race in Wilmot. So 3 well-known names there. And in Cambridge, while Mayor Liggett has not yet announced her intentions, I suspect she will run again. And Councillor Scott Hamilton has announced that he will also be running. So there's going to be a mayoral race there. North Dumfries, I should throw in. Rod Rollman, Ward 1 councillor, has declared intentions to run for mayor. Mayor Foxton has not yet announced intentions. She was acclaimed in 2022. That means no one ran against her. We'll see if she decides to run again against an incumbent councillor. That's some of what we know already because the nomination period opened on Friday. You could file your papers, declare your intentions, and we're going to talk more about it now with our next guest in studio, who's a dear old friend and a former councillor in Waterloo. Karen Coviello joins us. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's nice to see you. Thanks for stopping by. I hope that we can spend these next 6 months not only informing people of issues that they may need to be aware of, but also encouraging them to participate in this election, because I don't know that municipal elections get much bigger than this one here in this region.
At this moment in time.
Right.
Right. And we have a terrible track record when it comes to voter turnout for municipal elections. I think I was looking at the weekend, and I believe last election, the city of Waterloo's turnout was south of 25%. So think about that. 1 in 4 people voting in an election for arguably the things that matter most for us in our community doesn't make sense to me. So my purpose and my determination around this issue, this election cycle, is to do everything I can to make sure people are paying attention.
I think that's a noble pursuit, and that's why I wanted to further it here. You had an excellent letter to the editor in the paper on Friday that we will expand on here. And again, one of the reasons that this is such an important election locally is, though the legislation has not yet officially passed, we suspect it will because there's a majority at Queen's Park, and our regional chair will be appointed, not elected this time around. So something for us to consider. But you did put out at least 3 ideas, Karen, or issues that we should be focused on as we head towards this municipal election. What issues do you see as being critically important for us?
Okay, and I'll start a level up because my main thing here is that what I observe is that elections here, there, and everywhere, it's not just here, it's everywhere, have become PR marketing exercises that are more about, I don't know, personality, popularity, false claims, false promises, like, things that really, at the end of the day, fall apart when people get into office. And I know that because I have been an elected official in this community. I have sat in those seats. I have a very strong awareness of what it takes to do the job. And I understand how difficult these jobs are. So when people enter into this space and want to become an elected official, I'm looking for people with substance because I know that it requires substance. We have a habit in this community of being super complacent. I have the benefit through my work to travel all over this country, visiting communities from coast to coast to coast, and I see that we have a really great existence here in Waterloo region. But I also know that we take it for granted and that we've become complacent and arguably lazy around our democracy in this community. And 24% tells me, voter turnout tells me that's exactly what's happening. We don't pay close enough attention. And it allows our elected officials to detach and to make decisions and to act in ways that don't serve our communities in the ways that that we deserve to be served. And then we end up in a moment in time, like this moment in time, where we are facing some of the biggest challenges we have ever seen in this community. And I have to say, we're here because we weren't paying attention to them. Number one, I expect in this year, during this election cycle, to have a full update on the plan to end chronic homelessness that the region put in place 4 years ago and started actioning, but not actioning 4 years ago. It was the hallmark of their strategic planning. It was a hallmark of their commitment to this community. It was part of the 1 million ready, which has fallen apart because the plan to end chronic homelessness, we have no evidence that it's making any progress whatsoever. I expect a formal and honest and transparent update from the Region of Waterloo on that issue in this election cycle. Number two, when will this development freeze be lifted? It was a big anniversary over the weekend. Sunday was day 150 of a development freeze in this community. A development freeze that landed on the table on December 4th, long before council ever had a chance to see it, was announced to the public, and has literally thrown water into the gas tank of this community in so many ways. The development community, the real estate community, young people, affordable housing initiatives from not-for-profits have all been stalled and likely derailed by the fact that this region has not been keeping an eye on the water situation in this community. And the third one, just and you can tell I'm agitated. I'm not somebody who typically gets agitated. I'm typically kind of the coalition of the willing. So when people like me started getting agitated, I'm hoping our political leaders are paying attention. The tax increases in this community. I was the budget chair in the city of Waterloo, and our philosophy at that time, between 2010 and 14, when I was the budget chair, was that we had to make choices. Nobody's making choices anymore. City of Waterloo, 26.6% over 4 years. The numbers are staggering elsewhere as well. City of Kitchener's different. They do it in a different way. They still make choices. But they also have the capacity to do so because they're much bigger than the other first-tier municipalities. But I believe they still do things the way that we did it at the City of Waterloo when we did it that way. They make choices, they consider their options, and they do what they need to do. Other councils have lost the ability to make choices or the will to make choices about how they invest the funds that they receive from the taxpayers of this community. So 3 big things: plan to end chronic homelessness, the development freeze. Those 2 things are linked. And then our level of taxation. How are they going to legitimize and they could have very good explanations. I would just like to hear them. I would love to hear them. But to think that we have elected officials that are seeking re-election in this community with those 3 things unanswered, unresolved, unjustified is staggering to me.
You said a moment ago that you're not one that gets agitated. I do. I am.
I know you do.
And I have been particularly on the spending and the rate of taxation, and I've been pretty hard on Waterloo because the numbers are laid bare, and you just shared them again. You could make different choices. I think their choice was just to, well, we're going to do all the things.
Do all the thing. And
right?
They say it. They say it over and over again. This is our strategic plan, and this is what we're going to do. That's not how strategic planning works. But that's the story they choose to tell.
Right. So I want to come back to something else you talked about at the high level at the outset, and that is perhaps this sense of complacency that now exists amongst those we have elected. And I don't want to victim blame here, but if we the voter, let's say, or we the resident are the victims in this case, we are sort of the authors 100%. Of our own misfortune because we're not engaged enough.
Not paying attention.
Right.
And we're actually abdicating our role as citizens in order to hold our elected officials accountable for their choices. And this is why we have elections, right? We hear a lot about what's going on south of the border, about the loss of democracy and the things that are happening in order to fool around with democratic procedures. This is our chance to prove that our democracy works when we actually participate in democratic processes. And if we choose not to, it's on us. It's on us. And I am typically part of the coalition of the willing. I am very involved with lots of things in this community. I want change to happen. I want us to look after the people who need to be looked after. I want to, move things forward in ways that make good sense. But there's a gap. There is a serious gap. And I've been thinking about how to describe it in a way that simplifies it down to one thing. And I have to say I spend way too much time watching council meetings. I really do. I really need a much more interesting way to spend my time. But I watch the regional council meetings all the time and committee meetings and everything. And what I fully am seeing is that the region of Waterloo has forgotten what its job is. And their job is to ensure that we have the physical and social infrastructure in place to have a healthy and safe community. And that includes policing, it includes roads, it includes water. My tipping point issue was the water. I'm going to tell you, I am furious about this water thing. All of these things, that's their job. But if you watch their council meetings and you watch the comings and goings, they're not baking the cake that is the social and physical infrastructure of this community. They're focused on the icing and the sprinkles and the candles. They have forgotten to bake the cake. They're just decorating it. And it has gotten us, and it's not just this council, it's been coming for a while. They have forgotten to bake the cake. And it's a problem. We can't live on icing and sprinkles and candles alone. And that's just a fact of life. And now we have a water infrastructure issue. Day 150 was yesterday. I'll keep saying that. 150 days. I believe there's a report coming sometime in the coming months. There is a third-party report coming that will investigate how we got here, what happened, et cetera, et cetera. And I thank Councillor Craig for using procedural process to bring that forward because it wasn't coming. I thank Mayor Barry Verbanovich for bringing motions forward to move this thing forward because it wasn't happening. These experienced leaders in our community, they're doing what they need to do. But it's time either to get better bakers. It's time through this election cycle to understand that I don't care about icing and sprinkles. I care about the cake. Each one of us needs to care about the cake, and that we expect a well-developed, well-baked, well-fashioned cake to be put on the table, and to heck with the icing and the sprinkles. Focus on what matters.
I love that analogy. I love it. We do need some good bakers. Can I impose on you to stay around a little bit longer?
Of course.
Thank you. Karen Coviello, former councillor in Waterloo, and someone who doesn't get agitated often, but she's joining me in the agitated side of things as we talk about the upcoming municipal election on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We are in studio this morning with Karen Coviello, former councillor in the city of Waterloo, a member of the Coalition of the Willing, but she finds herself, and I couldn't agree more, a little agitated as we head into a critical municipal election. October the 26th is voting day. We'll talk a lot about it on this show between now and then, I promise you. Karen, I spent some time over the weekend because so many people declared intentions so quickly. I looked at some websites. I looked at some platforms, if you will. And I see words like transparency. I see phrases like restoring trust, affordability. These are all lovely political buzzwords and phrases. How are we going to get beyond those and into the batter of the cake that needs to be baked here?
Yeah, those words are icing cakes.
Right.
No doubt. Unless you have proven that you demonstrate those qualities, they mean nothing to me, right? Yeah. Transparency is like a real thing. It's a leadership quality that people must hold in 2026, right? It's an expectation of this world of ours that transparency is the number one. I believe it's the number one leadership quality and a commitment to transparency that somebody can hold. And we see it play out in different organizations. I believe that our police chief is transforming WRPS because of his commitment to transparency. They're very open about things. They show their work. I would not be successful in my job if I didn't show my work, leading a federation of 44 Habitat for Humanity affiliates across the country. If we do not have leaders who commit to transparency, not having one-on-one closed-door meetings. I remember during this water crisis when the region of Waterloo lined you guys all up in one-on-one meetings back to back to back to back instead of having a press conference. That is a lack of transparency. That is a commitment to a lack of transparency. That's just one example. That's the way the region conducts its media business now. That is not acceptable.
I agree wholeheartedly. I've been screaming at the clouds because of that. Land Assembly was the same thing. One at a time, come in and we will give you the message.
That is a lack of transparency on purpose.
Yes, it is.
So that's a choice they make, right? So how do you change that? You have to express an expectation as a community that changes. Period. End of conversation. You need to have a leader who commits to it changing. That's it. 100%. Transparency. I often say to the people who work for me, people who work around me, the people I work with in whatever I'm doing, all we have is trust and credibility. Everything else is just hoo-ha. Like it's nothing. It's meaningless. Trust and credibility. If you cannot hold the trust of the public or demonstrate that you are a credible leader, you're done. That's where we are right now. Our community has lost the people who are paying attention have lost trust in the region of Waterloo because they have not demonstrated credibility. That's the fact of life.
How do you feel, just as we wind up here today, that we will have an appointed chair as opposed to an elected chair?
I hear the conversations around democracy. I hear the conversations about, it's an assault to our democratic processes. We are not good at our democratic processes. That's the conflict to that in my head. And I believe that we have attracted the attention of the provincial government for a reason. Because they turn, seriously, the last year, we have put up red flag after red flag after red flag after red flag. Hey, look at us down the 401. Look how bad we are at what we're doing. That's what's happening on Frederick Street at the region of Waterloo. That's what they have done. And they have earned the attention that they have attracted from the provincial government.
What will you be watching for in the months ahead?
I've already been asked to provide endorsements for people, and I refuse to. I will be participating in a very different way in this election. I typically put a sign on my lawn. Nope, I will not be doing any of that. And that includes people who I've traditionally supported in strong ways. It's just not going to happen. I am going to be much more demanding. I am going to be much more vocal. I am going to do everything I can to build awareness around this election. And I'm going to start with that concept of trust and credibility, because without it, we're nothing. We will continue to spin our wheels. I'm looking at these pictures around of this community of ours that has everything. And we have dropped the ball in so many ways. And it's inexcusable to me.
We'll have to get off those laurels and get serious. I'm so glad we could have this conversation as the campaign begins. We'll do it again, maybe. We'll do some check-ins if you're willing.
100%.
Love it. Thanks for
you
being here.
You know how to find me.
I do. Thanks, Karen.
Thanks. See ya.
Karen Coviello, former City of Waterloo councillor, joins us to let us know, remind us what we should be paying attention to in this municipal election campaign, and hopefully reaching the ears of those who are hopeful of being elected or re-elected. There's a lot of work to do around here. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. My best friend's father has entered the system, our long-term care system here in the region. And not long after going to his first new place of residence, he quickly needed to be relocated to another because the level of care that he required increased rather dramatically. So I come at this conversation from a pretty personal place, having been in conversation with my best buddy about the situation that he and his brothers are dealing with around where his father is living and the kind of care that he is getting. And I'm sure I am not the only one who has experienced this with an aging relative, or maybe the aging relative of a friend. Shauna McMartin is a program lead, indicator research and development with the Canadian Institute for Health Information, and joins us for a conversation. Shauna, good morning.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. I know that the Canadian Institute for Health Information undertook some surveys of families as well as long-term care staff. What sorts of stories did you hear when you conducted those surveys?
Yes, absolutely. So as part of a bigger Aging with Dignity report that was released in February, we did some targeted focus groups with people living in long-term care or those family members or caregivers. And there were several experiences that were shared, some positive, but also we found that residents were saying that they were rarely leaving their rooms. Families were being told we don't have the staff. As well as in some of our indicator results, we found that people were dying in hospital less than a day after leaving their long-term care home.
So when we talk about aging with dignity, Shauna, what does that look like?
Absolutely. So dignity comes down to autonomy, respect, and purpose. Whether someone is aging at home or in long-term care, they want to feel valued, connected, and in control of their daily life.
How do we ensure that folks who are living in those settings are then able to age with dignity?
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned, dignity in aging isn't abstract. It's something we can and we should measure. While the system has long focused on clinical indicators, that doesn't tell us how care actually feels. So by adding measures like social connection and lived experience, we can better improve quality of life and ensure care is really person-centered. In order to measure this, so we can use a combination of data. So clinical indicators remain important, but adding those experience measures, as I mentioned, like social engagement and feedback from residents, families, and staff, really help us understand how care is experienced.
We are living at a time, I'll never forget when I read, Shauna, not too long ago, that we are not an aging nation here in Canada. We are already an aged nation. So with so many people now into that demographic, being described as aged individuals, are we too far behind here? Like, how do we make this work with such a large demographic?
No, absolutely. Like, Canada is becoming a super aged society, and that's really going to fundamentally change our health system. So we really need to rethink how we define and measure aging well. So it's not just in terms of clinical care, but in terms of dignity and quality of life. And I think that's where we need to kind of shift our focus now.
Who has to be involved in this shift in focus?
Yeah, well, that's where the data comes in too, and that's where we're kind of trying to highlight. So what we measure drives what we improve. So when dignity is part of performance measurement, it becomes part of decision making, from how resources are allocated to how care is delivered on the ground. So it also helps identify problems earlier and target solutions where they'll have the biggest impact on people's daily lives.
Who is responsible for these measurements? Is it the long-term care homes themselves? Is it the Canadian Institute for Health Information? Is it our government? Who's responsible for that?
Yeah, so our role at the Canadian Institute for Health Information is to use data to track progress, to identify where improvements are needed, as well as highlight interventions that are working so jurisdictions can kind of learn from one another. There is a shared health priority that was identified in 2023 by our federal, provincial, and territorial governments to support aging with dignity. So measurement is one of the ways to support that by improving how we understand and evaluate care.
I feel as though we're sort of at the beginning of this conversation, although I could be incorrect about that. I mean, it's the first time I'm coming to it, but how would you describe the state of dignity in our system today?
Yeah, so we're starting to measure that, and that's where we're starting to see kind of where we can look at the data and highlight where we might be seeing signs of dignity. So it's things like social engagement, and that's the first time Hi has released this result in February, where we found that about 2/3 of our long-term care residents were socially engaged. Since long-term care is also a home and social environment, social connection is really an important part of dignity.
What about the opportunity for folks to age at home? I hear an awful lot about that when it comes to healthcare and our aging or super aged population. What about the ability for us to live or age in place, so to speak?
Absolutely, and you're right. So almost all Canadians, so I think the result was about 81%, want to age at home as long as possible. However, this really depends on access to home care, personal finances, caregiver support, and the type of health conditions that someone is dealing with. So it's not always possible, but yes, that is something that people do want to, and we want to try to provide data to help support that happening.
So I guess if I'm understanding correctly, Shauna, what we're really talking about here is a more holistic view of long-term care. You've got the hands-on care that somebody might need, be it for, a medical issue or personal support workers, but then there are those social connections and those other experiences that really a person needs to have an entire, that holistic well-being.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's exactly what we're trying to kind of show here.
Shauna, really appreciate the time on the show this morning. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Shauna McMartin is a program lead, indicator research and development with the Canadian Institute for Health Information, and using data to measure the amount of dignity, or I might be so inclined as to say the lack thereof, when it comes to what it is that our older adults are receiving in long-term care today. As I mentioned at the outset, I come to this because I feel very closely involved with it right now, because my best friend's father is in a care facility now. And don't get me wrong, he's doing very well. He's been treated very well, no issues at all. But I find myself at a point now, and you know me, I'm that dollars and cents guy, right? I always am running the numbers. I want us to be fiscally responsible. But I can't help but wonder, especially with the position that my buddy's family finds themselves in today. I can't help but wonder if we have not, no, in fact, I think we have almost created two tiers of aging here. It was my belief that, without giving away too many details, but that my buddy's parents did okay. His mom's been gone for quite some time now, but his father had a very good job with a very good pension. And yet, the amount of money it costs to get the care that he needs today is, quite frankly, astronomical. And all I can think about is if this guy, who had a very good job and received a very good pension, is going to be, I won't say in dire financial straits, but certainly could be in dire financial straits if he lives too long, that's a problem for me. First of all, not everybody would even be able to afford the kind of care he's now receiving because he was a man of some means. But what if he continues to live a healthy life? It's possible that even he could outlive his money. And I don't know that that's the kind of situation I want any of us to have to face. So again, coming back to me being that dollars and cents guy and always wanting fiscal responsibility, and I do, but I struggle with this idea that you could end up broke, and who knows, like, let's talk about the homeless population that is comprised of seniors who basically outlive their money. How can we do this to our older adults? How can that be a thing in this country? Our quote-unquote healthcare system, I think, should be from that time we come out of the womb until that time we go into the tomb, if you will, if that's not too crude a way to put it. And I don't know where along the line we stopped taking care of older adults. It's something that I have invested a great deal of energy in thinking about since my buddy's dad, about a year ago, ended up in the system. Jason is with us on the phone this morning. Good morning, Jason.
Morning, Mike. I have so many answers to some of your questions.
Oh, good.
When did we stop caring about our seniors? I don't think we stopped caring about our seniors. I think we forgot about our seniors. I think we forgot about our older population. I think the expectation when they move into long-term care as well, they're set. They're there. You know, there's people that take care of them and kind of a forgotten a segment of our population. But to your point of the costing, to be honest with you, you know, if you don't have a pot to pee in, you know, and you move into a long-term care bed, whether you have high behaviors or no behaviors at all, like, you are taken care of. The government provides the funding to the homes for everybody, essentially. Like, you know, so if you can afford, well, actually what happens is the homes will take your pension, so your CPP, your old age pension, any top-ups you get, they'll put that towards your room. If you don't have enough to cover the room, again, the government tops you up, also provides you with a stipend per month. Now, if you have the means to afford that, well, then, yeah, they'll take your CPP, your old age pension, and any other additional pension money that you have to pay for your room. The only time it actually really costs anybody any money is when they prefer a private room, and then they will be out of pocket for that room. And so we take care of our seniors as far as housing. As far as other things, I don't necessarily know if we do a great job. As far as social engagement, I'd be curious from High if when they're doing these evaluations of the homes and the residents, residents' satisfaction levels, are they? You know, I'd like to know if they're for-profit, not-for-profit, or municipal homes, because there is a substantial difference between those three levels of care, but also recreation programming, dietary foods and needs and stuff like that. I can tell you where I work, because we're a not-for-profit. I believe we provide excellent social engagement opportunities. In 2 weeks, I'm going to be cooking ribs for my residents. You know, I do lots of baking programs, lots of trivia, lots of discussion groups, but it also depends on what home you work with and the monies that they provide for those additional top-up measures, like recreation, like physiotherapy, music therapy, and all those art therapy. All those things go hand in hand with who provides the care, what kind of a home they are, if they're for-profit or not-for-profit.
Jay, appreciate the call and the insight on that. And I guess that's one of the areas where I get stuck again when it comes to these for-profit care homes. Isn't that another way of saying privatized and or two-tier healthcare? Right? Like, why is any of it for profit? Shouldn't it be a part of the public good overall? Interesting conversation as we are into an already aged population, and Canada is soon to be considered a super-aged country. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. In case you couldn't tell from the start of our show today, we are pretty fired up in this town about our Kitchener Rangers. And I mean fired up in a good way. And why not? An overtime win in front of a playoff high crowd on Friday night, and your Kitchener Rangers are Western Conference champions, Wayne Gretzky Trophy winners. The Rangers will start the OHL finals on Wednesday night against either the Brantford Bulldogs or the Barrie Colts. Brantford and Barrie play Game 7 tonight in Brantford. If Brantford wins, the Rangers will play in Brantford on Wednesday. If Barrie wins, the Barrie Colts will come here to start the OHL final on Wednesday night at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. But there is a story from earlier in these Kitchener Rangers playoffs that, quite frankly, needs to be told in greater detail. And I think this is the appropriate time to do that. It is 10:23.
Not everyone's a jackwagon. Not every heart is cold. Not every promise made to you is gonna turn to gold and fold. Some people mean it when they say they care. Some folks will show up, actually be there. So don't close the door on every soul you meet. Not everyone's a jackwagon on this street.
You know who's not a jackwagon is Vernon Erb, the founder of Erb Transport, the late Vernon Erb. But Erb Transport continues to be a going concern in the fine township of Wilmot, now under the direction of CEO Wendell Erb. Yes, that would be Vern's son. And as you know, the apple did not fall far from the tree. So let me take you back and share some detail as to why it is Wendell and Erb Transport that is recognized this morning as our reminder that not everyone is a jackwagon. Because before the Kitchener Rangers played the Windsor Spitfires in the Western Conference Final, the Rangers' semifinal matchup was against the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. You can't go further in this league than Sault Ste. Marie. And it was on our way to Sault Ste. Marie for Game 3 in that series, where the trailer that the Rangers used to carry their gear had a little mishap. Thank you, Ontario Potholes, for rendering the trailer virtually useless on its way to Sault Ste. Marie. In case you didn't know, the Rangers travel in class. The players go on the bus. The equipment goes up in the trailer, so it's a little bit less work for the players. But the trailer, thanks to that massive pothole, ran into some issues. I could spend an entire show telling you all of the logistics that went in getting that equipment and that trailer from where the pothole ended its days, about 2 hours south of Sault Ste. Marie, into Sault Ste. Marie. But it all worked out. It was in and around Massey, Ontario, when the pothole did its damage. But everything got to Sault Ste. Marie in plenty of time for the game. The challenge then became, how do you get all that stuff back home again? Because the trailer is no longer useful. Enter Wendell Erb and the Erb transport team, because a simple phone call, and Wendell being Wendell, he said, give me a second here and I'll make this work. It took about 36 hours, but Wendell made it work. He had a truck coming up with a driver that was leaving a load in Sault Ste. Marie and going back home empty. Instead of going back home empty, we left GFL Memorial Gardens in Sault Ste. Marie after Game 4, and instead of loading a trailer, we did load a trailer, but we loaded a big transport trailer to have the gear hauled back home, and the gear beat the team back, and it was waiting for the team's arrival for the next day's game, because we played Game 4 and Game 5 on back-to-back nights. And Herb Transport made sure that all of the gear for the Kitchener Rangers was back at the Memorial Auditorium very early that next morning, so that it would be ready for the team that night, and they would go on to win Game 5 and take the Western Conference semi-final. So Herb Transport not only reminds us that not everyone is a jackwagon, but they get an assist in the Rangers' second-round playoff win over the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. Darn those Ontario potholes, but it gave Wendell Erb and Herb Transport a chance to shine. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, one thing that we know for sure in this community, because it's so well documented and we talk about it regularly here on the show, food insecurity is at an all-time high. 1 in 8 households in our region relying on the food bank for support. And I've been reading recently that our food bank of Waterloo region and the Cambridge Food Bank are partnering so that we can meet this increasing demand. Kim Wilhelm joins us monthly on the first Monday of every month for a conversation about food insecurity in our community, how we're meeting that need. Kim, of course, is the CEO at the Food Bank of Waterloo Region and joins me now in studio. As always, lovely to see you despite, how did I not know this about you before? Your hockey allegiances. Oh, my goodness. I might have to reconsider this regular segment.
I don't know.
Okay.
You know what? We should all be cheering for Canada's team right now.
Buffalo? No? Okay.
Nice try. Nice try.
Thank you for at least, I shouldn't have done that because you didn't mention the team that shall not be named on this show. Let's talk about what I've been reading. The Food Bank of Waterloo Region and Cambridge Food Bank strengthening their partnership to better respond to rising need in our communities. What's behind this?
Well, I mean, what's driving this is the growing need that we're seeing across the region, which you mentioned right off the top. And more individuals and families are turning for food assistance, and they're relying on us more often. So over the last number of months, we've been working a little more closely to deepen our partnership, Mike, to see what kind of efficiencies we can make. And really, this collaboration with Cambridge is really about making the most of the resources that we already have, reducing duplication, improving coordination, and strengthening how food support is delivered across this region.
Does anything change, Kim, for someone accessing support?
For people that are accessing support, absolutely nothing will change. And these changes are really about work behind the scenes on how we coordinate operations to make the system stronger and more consistent.
So what does working more closely together actually look like in practice?
It means we're looking at areas where we can better align. Things like agency relations, communications, fundraising coordination, and back office functions. And by working together in these areas, we can streamline processes, reduce overlap, and make better use of existing resources to support the region's entire food assistance network.
So when we talk about the entire region and that food assistance network, how significant is this need we're seeing right now in the region?
The need is significant, and it continues to grow. Last year, you've heard that there were more than 621,000 visits to a food assistance program across Waterloo Region, and that's supporting nearly 73,000 adults and children. And what's important to understand, Mike, is that it's not just the number of people, it's how often people need support. And we are seeing more and more households come back month after month, which tells us that the short-term need isn't so short-term anymore. It's ongoing. It's being driven by broader affordability pressures, housing costs, food prices, and incomes simply aren't keeping pace with the cost of living.
What does this strengthened partnership between the Food Bank of Waterloo Region and the Cambridge Food Bank ultimately mean for the community, Kim?
At the core, it really means a more coordinated, consistent system of support. And by working more closely with Cambridge, we can reduce confusion about how services are organized in the region, make better use of existing resources, and ensure that food support reaches people as effectively as possible, no matter where you live in Waterloo Region.
And this still means we will be maintaining these local connections, correct?
Absolutely. Both organizations remain independent and locally focused with a shared goal of ensuring that no one in our region goes hungry. This work really strengthens collaboration, but it doesn't change the important relationships and community-based services that people rely on each and every day.
Locally focused. I love that. It's kind of one of the hallmarks of this show. We remain locally focused, and we talk about hunger a lot as this local issue, but we know also, Kim, there are broader issues at play here, right? So how connected is what's happening globally to what people are experiencing here in the region of Waterloo?
They're very connected. Food is part of a much larger system, one that relies on fuel for transportation, energy for production, and inputs like fertilizer and packaging. And when something disrupts that system, Mike, like war or geopolitical tensions affecting the energy markets, it can increase the cost of fuel, which many of us are seeing every day. It can make things more expensive to grow, process, and transferred food. And so these increases, they really move right across the entire supply chain, from farms to warehouses to grocery stores, and eventually they show up for individuals at the counter when they're in the checkout line trying to get food for home.
Right. And when these prices rise, what does that mean for households?
Well, for many households, especially those who are already facing high living costs, even small impacts can make a huge difference. Think about the last time you went to fill up your car with gas, and sometimes that $50 increase or a couple $100 over the course of a month, that could be somebody's food budget. And now that individual can no longer afford basic human right.
We're already seeing significant need across the region. What are you seeing in the latest numbers?
Yeah, we are seeing an increase. Right now, 1 in 9 households in Waterloo Region is accessing food support. And what's important is that people are relying on that support more often, as I mentioned earlier. And when we look at the differences alone just between the months of February and March, in February, just over 25,000 individuals accessed a food hamper program. And in March, that rose to more than 27,000. So more than 2,000 individual increase just month over month. And while these changes can be influenced by different factors, the overall trend is clear, and that people are turning to food assistance. They're relying on it more frequently, and the cost of living is stretching people every day.
Of course, on the other end of this, the need to respond, the pressure increases there too.
Absolutely. We're seeing a decrease in donations at the grocery store because people don't have that extra room in their budget to make a extra purchase for the food bank. We have been seeing a dip in donations because, again, people don't have that extra room to make that donation. When households are stretched, charitable giving declines, and at the same time, our costs at the food bank are increasing. Our fuel costs to deliver food safely, our costs to purchase food to fill the gaps in inventory. We are seeing the pressures as everybody else in the community is as well.
What we, I think, learn through these regular conversations, Kim, is that food insecurity isn't necessarily about a lack of food.
No, food security is driven by lack of income. When there is food available, we know there's food available, but without enough income, people simply can't access it. rising costs, global pressures can intensify the situation like we're seeing, but the root issue is affordability.
So when we think about solutions, what can folks do right now?
Community support is essential. People can donate non-perishable food items if you have room in your budget. People can make a donation online if you have room in your budget. And those donations will go directly back into supporting our community.
Thinking a little bit longer term here for a moment. The month of May is Leave a Legacy month. How does that connect to the work you're doing at the food bank?
Well, it's important to think beyond the immediate opportunity and think about the long-term impacts. Legacy giving, like including a charitable donation in your will, is a way for people to support the community into the future. And for us, it helps ensure that we can continue to respond in need, even as that need evolves over time. And so I encourage people to reach out to their financial advisor and get a little bit more information about what that looks like for you.
What is that kind of support so important right now?
It's very important because what we're seeing isn't temporary. The pressures driving food insecurity, like housing costs, income challenges, are ongoing. And legacy gifts help create stability. They allow organizations like ours to plan ahead, invest in programs, and continue to support the network for years to come.
If someone is interested, how can they learn more about leaving a legacy gift?
Yeah, there's information on our website at thefoodbank.ca. And as I said, I encourage you to reach out to your financial advisor to see what that means for your own circumstances.
I love that we can have these regular conversations, Kim, on the first Monday of every month around this time. Anything you want to leave us with to consider before we talk again in June?
Mike, hunger doesn't happen in isolation, and neither do its causes. Responding to it takes immediate action, but also long-term thinking. So there's something that our entire community can be a part of.
Really looking forward to seeing the results of this strengthened partnership between the Food Bank of Waterloo Region and the Cambridge Food Bank, and love the work that you and the team do. Thanks as always for being here.
Thanks, Mike.
Kim Wilhelm joins us on the first Monday of every month at 10:30 for a little update on how we're doing when it comes to food insecurity or security in our community. It's part of the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. From one in-studio guest to several more, one of whom has me very nervous, but we'll just leave that where it is. We're going to talk about the upcoming Hockey Helps the Homeless Waterloo Region Tournament, a target already set of $350,000. The chair of the volunteer committee for Hockey Helps the Homeless Waterloo Region is Rob Way. Good morning, Rob.
Good morning, Mike. Is it a little warm in here, Mike?
Not for me, it's not.
I need to take off my jersey.
Oh, do you? Okay, so the Hockey Helps the Homeless jersey is coming off, and oh, look at that. Why are you wearing a shirt with a toilet seat on it, Rob?
I don't know. They're hard to come by. So.
Rob is a fan of the team that shall not be named, and when he walked in here this morning, and I saw him with his Hockey Helps the Homeless jersey on, I thought, why are you dressed like this? But of course, he was waiting for the big reveal. Congratulations.
Thank you,
It was
Mike.
a very exciting game. And I am jealous as the day is long. Like, what is it like having an exciting team that does exciting things?
Very stressful. Last night was very stressful, I'm not going to lie. But bring on Buffalo.
Bring on Buffalo, indeed.
Yeah.
Along with Rob, we have Joe Mancini with us, director and co-founder of the Working Center. Good morning, Joe.
Hello, Mike.
And Craig Herner is here as well, vice chair of the Hockey Helps the Homeless Waterloo Region Volunteer Committee, who brought me 2 liters of pop. Can I have 2 liters of pop? Craig, thank you for that.
Nice to be here, Mike.
Nice to have you here as always. Rob, let's talk about the upcoming tournament, October the 30th. And listen, you got room for a team still, right?
We do.
Yeah.
We have a spot for one team.
Okay.
So we kind of split the season up. This is our planning. This is our off season, which if anybody involved with teams knows, this is where all the important stuff happens. This is where you recruit the players, you get the teams, you get the sponsors, and what you do right now makes a big difference on October 30th. So we'd love to have some more sponsors. And we're looking for another team and players. If you already played last year, you can get signed up sooner than later.
It sounds like a pretty good spot to be. 15 of those team slots are filled. 1 slot remains.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. And there's a golf tournament coming up in September as well.
September 12th at Craigwan Golf in Woodstock. And we're going to have some pros there. The pros are going to be playing on the, alumni, I should say, are going to be playing on the par 3s to help you out. Our charity partners are going to be part of serving at food, their specialties at the different holes. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully we can raise some additional funds. And then in August, we've got a surprise coming because we're going to do some real game-changing things, and I'll leave it at that for now, that will hopefully raise additional funds for us. So lots of planning going on, and we have to, because we've got to raise more. We know that, to be able to invest it in homelessness.
You topped just over $350,000 this past year, didn't you? 352?
Yes. 352.
352.
Yeah.
Joe, as the director, co-founder at the Working Center, one of the organizations locally that benefits from this annual tournament, can you give us a sense of what this funding, which has been happening annually now for 13 years, means to the Working Center?
Oh, it's a real bonus to receive up to $50,000, even more. For all of us organizations, the work we do with homelessness, some of it, there's some government money for it, but most of it there isn't. For example, St. John's Kitchen runs almost 90% on donations. So this really contributes towards that. And for example, this winter, opening up the new St. John's Kitchen to be a warming center, I mean, nothing said more about supporting the homeless than opening our doors. And 100 people were there, and 140 people at the end of the season were using that space every night. That wasn't government funded; that was the community, and we really, organizations need dollars, community dollars, volunteer dollars, and volunteer commitments to provide those services, to be on the ground for people who really need them. And I can tell you the stories of what it means to have a space that's open so that someone doesn't have to freeze outside is pretty crucial.
How's the new space at 97 Vic working out?
Well, the main part of that space is St. John's Kitchen. And it's a beautiful space, but also because it's main floor, it's a big open area as a dining area. We have more volunteers than ever. We have more people using it. This winter, most days, about 400 people were on site almost every day. People don't leave so much in the cold. So, we have a space. You can imagine, most people can't think of that. 400 people in a space on a regular basis all day long, that's a lot of people. But it's also it's pretty incredible to have such a space available. And people stayed because not only is it a beautiful space, but it kind of works for people.
How do you keep up with the demand? Because it seems to me that, sadly, the demand only grows. It's true. We always said that we've been doing this 40 years, and there was always kind of a balancing. Maybe at the point where St. John's Kitchen overflowed, Ray of Hope opens up, or House Friendship does something, or the Food Bank does a program. So there's always different ways that it kind of balances. It seems to balance out, but in the reality today, where we see homelessness growing, we need more resources. We need more services on the ground, and there's just no question about it. And whether it's because of population growth or the reality of lack of housing, or the cost of housing and higher mental health issues and higher drug issue, the reality is that services on the ground need to increase. And so we're feeling the pressure. Our workers feel the pressure. All the organizations of Hockey Helps the Homeless, we feel the pressure every day on the ground. We have a lot of solidarity between us organizations because we know the pressure that we're all under. Craig Herner, Rob already mentioned, so there's one slot left for a team. Any players who participated last year, get signed up, join, make sure we fill that final slot. The golf tournament coming up in August. Those sponsorships, which are still valuable, $1,500 for pennant sponsors. And I know you can point us in the direction of places online. We can find all the information, keep up with what you're doing at Hockey Helps the Homeless.
Exactly. So, yeah, if you go to wr.hhth.com, that's our website, so you can check us out, get further details there. And Facebook and Instagram at hhthwr to find out everything that's going on, updating it on a regular basis, and even looking into even further social media avenues. So that'll be coming soon too.
All right, HHTHWR on Facebook and Instagram, and the website is wr.hhth.com. Did you wear red on purpose today, Craig?
I guess I did.
Yeah.
Well, this is the New Jersey Devils colors, but it kind of fits with another team as well a little bit.
It does.
Yeah.
Rob, all these years later and all this money raised later, what keeps the fire in the belly for you and the rest of the volunteer committee to do this work?
Well, I think, you've heard about the increase in demand. And for me, Hockey Helps the Homeless is about creating activation. So we have 240 players that go out and ask for about 5,000 donations in this community. So that's 5,000 people that likely would not have given to support Hockey Helps the Homeless and the charities and homelessness in the region. And that's what's so powerful, I believe, about Hockey Helps the Homeless. So if you're a sponsor and you want to give $1,500 to support homelessness, yes, you can give it directly to the charity partners, but you could also give it to Hockey Helps the Homeless, and we're going to return that 3 times to the charity partners. So in terms of an investment in the community, that's what keeps me going, is our ability to take and leverage people's interest in hockey and in homelessness and give back as much as we can.
You mentioned earlier that there are some new fundraising avenues coming up in the summertime. We're going to have you back, or are we going to watch online? What's the deal here?
Well, I figure if you bring us back after we win the Stanley Cup, we can celebrate twice. It'd be perfect.
It's a deal. If I didn't like you so much, I'd be really upset with you wearing that shirt in here today. Thanks for all the great work you do. Thanks for being here.
All right, take care.
Rob Way, Craig Herner with the Hockey Helps the Homeless Volunteer Committee, and Joe Mancini, Director, Co-founder of the Working Center. Thanks, Joe. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Oh, those aren't just any who, they are the Guess Who, and they feature prominently this week as we take a look back at this week in music history. And you might know, because you love your music and you love this town like I do, right? There is a pretty close connection between that song and this community that we will get to as we welcome our good friend and musicologist Brian Allison to the program. Brian guides us on this trip down a musical memory lane each and every Monday morning after the 11 a.m. news. And don't forget, Brian also operates a Facebook page of the same name, This Week in Music History, where you will get the tidbits that you hear about on the show today and lots more. Brian, I always look forward to Mondays at 11. Good morning, sir.
Me too, Mike. Good morning.
I'm glad you do. Let's go back. Let's go way back to 1956. We're talking 70 years ago this week, and the king of rock and roll. Thank you very much.
The first number one for the king. Yeah, back in 1956. So this is probably like when our parents were teenagers. Elvis scored his first U.S. number one single with Heartbreak Hotel. Went right to the top of the charts. And it became the first million seller as well, and became the best-selling single of 1956. So you didn't get much bigger than Heartbreak Hotel and Elvis Presley in 1956 for sure. The song was written by a fellow named Tommy Durden, who had actually lifted the lyrics almost word for word from a newspaper article about a fellow who had committed suicide. He was a lonely man who had jumped from a hotel window, and he left a note with some words on it, and some of the words were, quote, "I walk a lonely street." And he took those words and wrote it into this song called Heartbreak Hotel, brought it to this young fella who was just sort of coming up through, the Southern rock scene. And it was Elvis Presley, and Elvis recorded it. And, of course, it just became probably, Elvis's signature song, the song that he's most remembered for, and certainly one that put him on the map back in 1956.
Boy, I'll tell you, art imitating life right there, right? Straight from the pages of a newspaper into a number one hit.
There you go. I mean, this is what it takes. You take a basic piece of news or something like that and put it into a lyric and sell it to an artist, and, you're off and running.
All right, so maybe a signature tune for the King. How about a signature riff that goes beyond? I mean, this band has put out so much, but the iconic riff for I Can't Get No Satisfaction this week in 1965.
I love this story because it's just, so just out there. So it's May 6, 1965, and Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, they began working on a song called I Can't Get No Satisfaction. This was what the song would become, now considered to be one of the greatest hooks of all time. They composed it in a hotel room in Clearwater, Florida. And Keith Richards had just purchased one of the very first fuzz boxes for a guitar manufactured by Gibson. So he was anxious to use that. But the interesting part is he had this riff, and the iconic riff, Keith claims that it was written in his sleep. So he was sleeping in said hotel room the night before. He woke in the middle of the night with this guitar riff going through his head. He sat up, grabbed the guitar next to his bed, pushed play on his trusty miniature tape recorder back in the day, and played this about 30 seconds of this iconic riff that would become that guitar sound that became I Can't Get No Satisfaction. After finishing the riff, he set the guitar down, went back to sleep. He didn't actually push stop on his tape deck. And when he woke up the next morning, he rewound the tape, heard this guitar riff, and went, wow, we got to use that in the song. And then there was about 30 minutes of him snoring on the tape. So, yeah. So when Mick came in the next day, he said, I wrote this riff kind of in my sleep last night and played it for Mick and meant, well, I think we can work with this. And they sat down and developed the song Satisfaction, which would go on to be a huge hit for the Stones, their first number one hit in the USA back in 1965. So there you go. Keith Richards writing iconic guitar riffs in his sleep.
You're talented when, Brian?
I mean, some of these things, I've heard lots of artists say that, that they were just gifted a certain song, that it just fell into their lap, that they, woke up with a lyric in their brain, or they woke up with a guitar riff, or something just sort of appeared out of nowhere. And it really is a gift. It's a wonderful thing.
Fitting that you and I do this segment every Monday morning at 11, because Monday was, I guess, made a little bit more famous this week in 1966.
It sure was, by the Mamas and the Papas. So they topped the Billboard 100 in May of 1966 with the song Monday, Monday, which was the first single by a mixed gender group to reach number one in the USA. Imagine that. In 1966, it became the first song by a mixed gender group. Interestingly, the song was written in about 20 minutes by John Phillips, and the group apparently hated the song. When he brought it to the rest of the Mamas and the Papas, they weren't really thrilled with it. They thought it was a bit lame, but he thought it was great. He had them record it, and it became a huge hit for them, their first number one hit, and it also won a Grammy for Best Pop Performance by a duo or group with vocals. So, yeah, I think Papa John got it right back in 1966. Some interesting trivia. It also became the first, Monday Monday was the first song to top the charts and hit number one with a day of the week in the title. That's only happened 2 other times in chart history where a song that has a day of the week in the title hit the number one spot. Any idea what those might be?
Oh, Brian, you got me stuck on Monday mode because of Monday, Monday, and I'm thinking some Boomtown Rats, and I don't like Mondays. I'm thinking some Bangles and Manic Monday. But I think I got to go one more day in the week, right? Ruby Tuesday's got to be there?
Those are great guesses. But I'll tell you, they're both songs that topped the chart were weekend days. The first one came in 1976. Big song for the Bay City Rollers, Saturday Night.
Okay.
It's number one.
SATURDAY night.
Oh, just played forever in the 70s, right? It was everywhere. And then the next one came a little bit later in 2011 when Katy Perry hit number one with Last Friday Night.
If. Really?
There it is.
Manic Monday didn't make it, and Ruby Tuesday didn't make it, eh? Wow.
Apparently not.
Okay.
Not to the top spot. So there you go. Only 3 times in history when a song with a day of the week in the title topped the charts.
Absolutely love it. Speaking of trivia, there's a wee bit of trivia associated with that song that we started this week in music history with this week. The Guess Who's American Woman. What's the connection to right here in this region? And more coming up as we continue our weekly conversation with Brian Allison, our musicologist who joins us for This Week in Music History on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Every Monday morning at 11, we are joined by Brian Allison, musicologist, for a look at This Week in Music History. Don't forget Brian's Facebook page of the same name, This Week in Music History, where you'll get these tidbits and so much more as we continue into the 1970s. In fact, the year was 1970 on this week, May the 9th, and the Guess Who's American Woman goes to number one. And there's a real neat connection between that song and this region, Brian.
It's so cool that it's connected to this region. And it's a little bit of dissension, you might call it, within the band about the birth of American Woman, but I think they've kind of got it straightened out over the years. So we go back to May 9th, 1970. And Canadian rockers, the Guess Who, American Woman, began a 3-week run at the top of the Billboard 100, making it their 6th total top 40 hit and their sole number one. It was the only song that the Guess Who had that actually reached the number one spot with their massive catalog. Interestingly, the song was born when guitarist Randy Bachman, they were playing a gig at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. And he had broken a string, and he had to have a quick string changed the string on his guitar, came back and started to play this riff just to kind of break in the string to, warm himself back up again. And it wasn't a riff that he had ever played before. And the band all sort of looked at it and went, wow, what was that? That was pretty good. So there happened to be a fan who had a tape recorder and had been recording the concert. And after the show, the band asked the fan for the tape so they could recall that specific jam. And Burton Cummings had added some lyrics right on the spot while they were doing it, and they thought, wow, this is, we got to develop this into something. So, yeah, this is the song that became American Woman. Now, Burton Cummings said in the later years, he believed the song actually was birthed at a place called the Broom and Stone Curling Rink in Scarborough, Ontario. But when they all got back together and talked over the years, the consensus is that, yes, the song was birthed after this broken string incident at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. That was when the riff was first played, and then they had developed the song over subsequent shows in Southern Ontario, including that venue in Scarborough, Ontario. So it's very, very likely that American Woman was birthed right here at our very own Kitchener Memorial Auditorium.
Absolutely love it. As if that building needed any more legend attached to it, right?
Well, and you know what? Anytime I'm there and I hear that song, I know they have played it during Rangers games on occasion, and I wonder if that the person who's in charge of the music there is like, yeah, we got to throw in some American Woman because it was birthed right here in this very building.
Absolutely. Okay, this week in 1976, the former lead singer of the Lovin' Spoonful goes number one with an interesting song.
Very interesting song and kind of a cool show, too. At least it was back in the day. I watched a little bit of this show in recent years, and it didn't seem to age as well. It didn't have the humor that it had when I was 6. I'm not sure if that's true for a lot of people. But, yeah, May 8th, 1976. So John Sebastian, he was the lead singer of the Lovin' Spoonful, and he went to number one with the theme for the show Welcome Back, Kotter. And the song was called Welcome Back. Went to the top of the charts. Only 2 other television theme songs have reached the number 1 spot on the U.S. Billboard 100. One of them was also in 1976, and one of them came later in 1985. Now, when I heard this trivia, I was, okay, it's got to be the Rembrandts who had the theme from Friends, or maybe Joey Scarborough from The Greatest American Hero. Nope, neither one of those hit number 1. The songs that were both number 1 hits from television shows, 1976, the theme from SWAT by Rhythm Heritage. Now, I had to look that one up, Mike.
I'm not sure I couldn't pick up that tune either.
When I heard it, I was like, okay, I have heard this before, but it certainly wasn't one that I remember. And then, of course, 1985, you've got the theme from Miami Vice by Jan Hammer, which was kind of everywhere around 1985.
As was that show. Iconic. I've watched that recently, actually. I found it on one of the streaming services. You were just mentioning Welcome Back, Kotter. And even just looking back, the pace of the show is not even close to what we're used to today. But you can feel what they're doing in that show. There's just something to the way it was shot, the way it was acted. Really interesting stuff going back to look at Miami Vice from the 1980s.
It was a great show. Have you still got your pastel T-shirt and white jacket?
No, I did give that up, but I did have it, make no mistake, and I walked around like the kids do today. They wear dress shoes without socks. I don't know. I wore all my old mesh canvas shoes without socks back then, but I can't do it with dress shoes.
We all had them in the 80s.
All right. Speaking of the 80s, it was the beginning of the decade, and Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band grace us this week in music history on 1980.
With a massive album, May 3rd, 1980, Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band started a 6-week run at the number 1 spot on the U.S. album charts with Against the Wind. Great album, great song, incredible performance by the band. The title song would win 2 Grammy Awards for Seger in 1981, including Best Male Rock Vocal Performance. It was also cool in that album, Against the Wind, it was the album that knocked Pink Floyd's epic album, The Wall, out of the top spot, because that had been hanging on for some time, was such a big record back in 1979, 1980, and along comes Bob Seger and knocks it out of the top spot, so that was pretty good. Huh? In related trivia, this week in music history, our friend Bob Seger will turn 81 years old on Wednesday. Fantastic that Bob's still around, and I think he did his final farewell tour a few years ago, which I was fortunate enough to see. He still sounded fantastic. I wish he was still out doing it, but he's 81. I think he's decided that he's done, and he's going to enjoy his golden years.
I've never minded Bob Seger at all, but he wasn't a guy that I would listen to often until recently, Brian. I got into a conversation with a couple of scouts of all things at a Rangers game recently, and the conversation turned to music, and one of them insisted that if I have not listened to Bob Seger's Bullet Live album, I'm missing out. And so I did, and I was reminded how much I enjoy Bob Seger's music. It's a fantastic album.
Bob is just one of those artists where, if you went to see him play live, it's one of those shows where it's like a greatest hits. Every song and you don't think maybe that you know that many Bob Seger songs, but once he plays through his catalog or you listen to some of his greatest hits records, it's like, my God, what a wealth of great music this guy had. And he went, Bob Seger started in the late 60s coming out of Detroit, so he had a very lengthy career, a lot of great music there.
It was on this very day, May the 4th in 1996, so exactly 30 years ago. Forget one of the biggest albums, Canadian albums. Forget one of the biggest albums by a female. This is just one of the biggest albums of all time came out.
It really is. I mean, it's sold since 1996 in the vicinity of 33 million copies worldwide. Not many artists can claim to have a record that sold so many records. So 1996, Alanis Morissette, she started a 6-week run at number 1 on the UK album chart with Jagged Little Pill. I mean, really, 1996, you just could not get away from Alanis Morissette. If you were listening to radio, if you were out in clubs, her music was playing everywhere. And that's because this album was just chock full of classics. You've got You Ought to Know, you've got Ironic, You Learn, Hand in My Pocket, Head Over Feet. I mean, it was just one hit song after another. Incredible, incredible performance by Alanis Morissette. And then to boot, it was nominated for 9 Grammy Awards, winning 5, including Album of the Year, making the then 21-year-old Alanis Morissette the youngest artist to win the top honor for Album of the Year at that point. So incredible. And even more great is that she's from Canada. She's one of us, and we can claim ownership of Alanis and how great her career was.
And we can thank Uncle Joey, Dave Coulier, for the inspiration, right?
Apparently, yeah, that's been said. Now, there's been a few people who have refuted it. I don't know that Alanis has ever come out and confirmed that it was actually Uncle Joey that she wrote that song You Ought to Know About. But they were in a relationship. He claims that the song is definitely about him. So, yeah, it's pretty cool that there's that tie to it as well.
Lots of fun, as always. I look forward to this every Monday, as I said. Thanks for being here with us again this morning, Brian.
Oh, you bet, Mike. I'll talk to you next Monday.
Look forward to it. Bye-bye.
Okay, see ya.
Brian Allison, musicologist, who joins us every Monday morning just after the 11 a.m. news for a look back at this week in music history. Don't forget, Facebook page, the same name, This Week in Music History, and you'll get all of these tidbits and then some. And as so often seems to be the case, my inspiration, Brian turns into my muse here on the show, because I realized sometime around 10 this morning, shoot, I haven't come up yet with the theme for this week's All Request Friday. And then Brian tells us about this week in 1966 and the Mamas and the Papas taking Monday to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. The first song in chart history to hit number 1 with a day of the week in its title. There were only other 2 that did that. One was the Katy Perry song, the name of which I already forget. Was it Katy Perry, he said? And the other was Saturday Night by the Bay City Rollers. So it just got me thinking, why don't we go with that for our theme this week? They don't have to be number 1s, but how about songs with days of the week in the title? I already came up with a couple of other Mondays. Manic Monday. I don't like Mondays. We could do Saturday Nights, all right, for fighting. I'm sure Ruby Tuesday I mentioned. You'll come up with lots more, I know. But our theme for All Request Friday this week, songs with a day of the week in the title, in honor of the Mamas and the Papas going number 1 this week in music history. Send in your request via email to mike@570news.com, or just call and let Jen know what song you'd like to hear this Friday. We'll play it for you on our All Request Friday show. It's the Mike Farwell Show, don't you know? On 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Has anybody heard from Crazy Dave? Has anybody heard from Crazy Dave? Has anybody heard from Crazy Dave? I haven't seen hide nor shaggy head of that boy in 4 years. But you'd know him if you met him. Played harmonica like the cat lost his balls. Yep, Crazy Dave. Had a toothy smile as big as my hand. Always chewed on a toothpick or a long blade of grass, drank from the bottle, rolled the worst cigarettes, was impervious to insect bites. It's one of the best damn tree-planting highballers east of Prince George.
That is our good friend, David Drewe. He is the owner of Negotiating Change, Government Relations, Stakeholder Engagement Strategies. He spent many a year working on the Hill with Conservative MP Harold Albrecht in Kitchener-Conestoga. And David joins us every Monday morning, 11:30, to share his views with us on Drewe's Views. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Are you done mocking my Maple Leafs enough already? They mock themselves.
Honestly, I don't think that was a mocking comment on my part. I think it's very fair to say that team is always going to make money. So the head office is not really that risk motivated to win. You can perform for next season in Toronto forever. They are very tolerant of that.
As someone who now feels as though he has a personal stake in the fortunes of that team, because you see Rogers owns MLSE, I would like the team to do well because I think that would help me do well. Selfishly, and I've been a fan my whole life.
There was nothing I was saying that was derisive about it. It's just...
You said, who made the playoffs? Your Ottawa Senators.
Well, that was... No, honestly, who started that?
Okay, that's fair.
You chirped. You chirped, I chirped back. Gosh, this is just like question period.
It is like question period. Let's get down to business here, because you are accusing NDP leader Avi Lewis of being a criminal, a moral criminal.
No, it's about his hierarchy. of moral crimes.
So the moral crimes that the rest of us commit.
Well, it's more that, darn it, and now her name's eluding me. You had the Nunavut MP,
Laurie
Idlout,
yes,
who crossed the floor and joined the Liberals, and we remember what the NDP's reaction to that was.
Yes.
And now we have Alexander Boulerice, who is going to leave the NDP caucus to join a separatist party in Quebec and break up Canada if they succeed. And oh my gosh, there was nothing but praise going out the door for that guy. So apparently, leaving to focus on your province, leaving Canada is praiseworthy, but leaving the NDP to join the government to help investments in your riding be better targeted is a moral failure. That's what I wanted to call out. Alexander Boulerice is joining a separatist party, and Avi Lewis gave him nothing but love on the way out.
Maybe Avi Lewis just wants to show himself as a loving leader, so he might entice more to join. What are they down to, 4 now? Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Anyway, it doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah, like they're now like, it's not even the minivan party, it's a smart car party.
It is indeed. Okay. The Liberals, on the other hand, not only have the majority in Parliament now, thanks to some floor crossings and some by-election success, but and you've talked about this before. That's why I am always aware when I hear about the makeup of committees in Ottawa.
And the craziest thing about it, absolutely, I will say I have no moral qualms at all. Pardon me, I shouldn't say none at all. I do not like how floor crossings led to a majority government. And therefore, I do not like how floor crossings led to committees being withdrawn. But it's legitimate. I accept it. I'm not. But where I am questioning the legitimacy is why the Liberals all of a sudden got 2 more seats on every committee as opposed to 1 more seat on every committee. That math, Mike, you're a numbers guy. That math don't math. That is the part where it just gets a little bit craven, because now it's not just about what the seating in the House of Commons might entitle them to. It's now about every one of their committees being dissent-proof. And the first week, we saw, 3 different committees move in camera to deal with their business. And Stephen McKinnon, the House Leader, Minister of Transport and House Leader, he does wear a couple hats. But he had to come out and apologize for it. And while he was trying to justify it, it was not a good look. It really was not a good look for the first week. And as many other pundits have said, so I'm not claiming original thought for this, if Liberals have an kryptonite, it's arrogance. And giving themselves 2 extra seats on every committee as opposed to 1. And then in the first week, shutting down 3 committees like that, it's not a good sign for them. And I'm saying that as a cautionary tale, not as an admonition.
Listen, Mark Carney is nothing if not efficient, and this would seem to be the most efficient way to run committees, free from dissent, as you point out.
Oh, okay. And also, I sent you that late addition to the show notes, and this would be a good time to talk about the Senate.
Okay, let's do that, because I would like to talk about the end of the Senate's days, which I was hoping were coming.
Well, Mark Carney might be working it out for you. This is what I wanted to talk about.
There are numerous vacancies, I hear.
There are numerous vacancies. Not only that, though, but there are uncountable vacancies in the body that is supposed to suggest senators to be appointed. So it's not just that there's an incredible amount of vacancies. It's that Mark Carney has consciously chosen to de-staff the body that would nominate appointees to fill those vacancies. So I don't know what the long-term game here is. Is he going to let it become a crisis so all of a sudden he can act decisively and all of a sudden appoint a pile of partisan Liberals?
That's what I was thinking would happen.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too.
Right, because then you've got your majority in Parliament, then you've got your nice, comfortable upper chamber all nice and red for you.
But in the meantime, he gets to say, I haven't appointed a single senator. And that's a nice little shield to hold up defending yourself against cronyism in Ottawa.
Do you think anybody would use that against him as saying, Mark Carney hasn't gotten anything done? He hasn't even appointed a senator.
Well, no, but it's when you're talking about insider deals or anything like that, to turn around on the ethical side and say, I haven't even appointed a senator. Like, look at what the last guy did. Look at what the guy before that did. I haven't put any of my people in these well-paid, no-show positions. By the way, sometimes I feel like the Senate, it's like those union jobs that the mob gets. You know, they're no work or no shows. Anyway. So, yes, we got the double in on the federal government there.
All right. Let's bring things right close to home here. A week ago today, the Public School Board had a meeting during which an outside consultant gave them some feedback on their strategic plan. In a nutshell, the outside consultant said, your strategic plan is not a strategic plan at all. All of these broad themes, all of these difficult to measure outcomes, et cetera, and you need to go back to the drawing board. I was very frustrated about this and kind of sounded off on it last week as yet another example of a school board that is completely and utterly out of its depth. Precisely zero experience. And, what have they done now? So not only did they bungle the hiring and firing of a director, not only have they gone to how many different courts against one another, against former teachers, you name it, all the money wasted on litigation. And now you undertake the exercise of the creation of a strategic plan, which would have involved some outside help. You're paying a third party to do some surveying, consulting, et cetera. So you spend that money to create a strategic plan that is terrible. Now you've got another consultant that you've spent money on. What will this board not spend money on that does not end up doing nothing for the school? I have no idea.
Okay, so
we took away different things.
Anyway, next topic. No, just kidding. No, like seriously, way to set the table for me, Mike. No, but what I just found so interesting about it was the new consultants, Overlap Associates, who do have a very good reputation in this community, but they came through and said that last strategic plan was really sadly lacking in any definable outcomes, any quantitative measures of success. Like, okay, yeah, we're going to do these things, but what does success look like? And that is often the hard part about strategic plans. You know, it's one thing to say we're going to increase engagement, but what does that mean? And then you start getting down to, well, it's click-throughs, or it's this, or it's that. And you start realizing, is that what we actually meant? Are we? So you need these clear definables so you can say at the beginning, in 5 years, this will be the difference from this strategic plan, and this is how we will know whether we have succeeded or failed. And that's where the public school board was absolutely lacking. And so you're reading this scathing article about how bad this was, and Scott Pietkowski, my favorite school board trustee, because he gives me so much content to talk to you about. Quote, I will agree that support for equity measures is an ideology, and it is part of my own ideology, but opposition to equity measures is also an ideology. So I don't think we can dismiss something we disagree with as an ideology while pretending the other side isn't.
Kind of like the way he dismissed a presentation to the board?
Bingo. But I want to go even further than that. It's sort of like, so how is this going to help us get to clear outcomes? No, this is marking territory that has nothing to do with student achievement, that has nothing to do with corporate governance. It's about, hey, we're all ideological here. It's not just me. And it's like, no, it's about the kids. And yeah, equity measures. You want to sit there and quibble about the use of the word ideological? Your strategic plan just got roasted. And by the way, who was chair when this strategic plan was adopted?
I believe the same person who was chair when the former director was hired.
Which would be the aforementioned Scott Pietkowski.
That's right.
Okay, I wanted to be clear on that because I was not 100% on the dates. But, geez, it doesn't feel like this is a student-centered organization. I'm just going to leave it there because all of that critique of a strategic plan and the quibble we get is about use of the word ideology maybe being a bit selective.
All All right. You may very well leave it there, and I appreciate that. I'll just add one more thing.
Please.
Because this same former public school board trustee, who, in my opinion...
Chair.
Yes, but and trustee. So chair and trustee. I'm saying former because he has announced that he no longer wishes to be a public school board trustee.
Oh, I did not know that.
He wishes to be the representative for Ward 5 in Waterloo. So I will ask you, fine voters of Ward 5 in Waterloo, if this gentleman comes to your door seeking support, ask him to stand on his record as a school board trustee and school board chair. Because from where I'm sitting, that board has been nothing but a mess for 8 years. They can't get along with one another. They can't make strategic plans. They can't hire directors, and they can't stay out of court.
Totally clown shoes. And I'm saying that mournfully. I'm not saying that scornfully at this board, like, haha, you bunch of losers. I'm saying, oh my God, this is a joke.
Our students deserve better. Our families in this community
And
deserve
so once
better.
again, these school board supervisors, I don't know how against them I am, because if you had somebody who understood what a strategic plan was supposed to do at the board level, maybe, just maybe, we would not have wasted 5 years.
Right. So if you have somebody that doesn't know what a strategic plan is supposed to be or supposed to do at a school board level, if you want them in charge of your municipal budget, even to a small degree in Waterloo, think about that. I am so passionate about this, I have even created a slogan. Dear Waterloo, please remain scot-free in the upcoming election. Okay? If you see a name on your ballot that says Scott, in my opinion, I would strongly urge you to not vote for that person.
So as I was driving in here, I was thinking about this topic, and I was like, oh man, I hope Mike doesn't think I'm going to be swinging too hard at Scott. And here we are, and I'm like, ooh, Mike's bringing the spice.
Let's keep Waterloo
scot-free.
Thank you.
I love it.
David Drewe joins us Monday mornings, 11:30 for Drewe's Views. We continue on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Monday mornings, 11:30, we are joined by David Drewe, former Conservative Party staffer, for Drewe's Views here on the program. Let's talk about a cabinet shuffle in Ottawa. Do we need one?
Well, Mark Carney does.
Okay.
This is not a sign of anything other than, hey, it's his first cabinet. He had new people to put in it. He's had people he's rotating out. It's been a year. He's got some people he now has a record for who, he might want to revisit his choices, because some of them are, like Gregor Robertson as Minister of Housing has been a bit of a disaster. Lena Diab as Minister of Immigration had the worst end of the week last week with an Iranian official landing at Pearson and then just getting back on a plane and turning around, not being admitted to Canada technically. He was never admitted to Canada. He landed at Pearson, but he didn't get across that international side, so he was never technically admitted to Canada. Now, this is a mistake. This is a bureaucratic mistake. This is a civil servant's mistake. It should not be fatal to a government to make a mistake like this. It should not even be that wounding, but Lena Diab's inability to communicate and unwillingness to even seem willing to communicate has really made the government look absolutely more incompetent than they needed to. She's accountable, but not responsible. Great. So we don't have responsible government anymore, but we do have accountable government anymore. Explain, split that hair for me. I don't know. But you also have some people, one that comes to mind for me because I was a fan of his before he went into politics, Corey Hogan out of Calgary, who has demonstrated himself to be an immensely gifted communicator for the government on complicated files. So there's good reason to have a cabinet shuffle. The rumors are in high gear again, but boy, oh boy, Lena Diab last week probably put a little bit of a fire on the calendar in the PMO to let's get this shuffle going. We need communicators where we need communicators.
Okay, maybe somebody needs to communicate clearly to Ontario Premier Doug Ford that, I don't know, is quit while you ahead the right phrasing? The poll numbers for Premier Ford are nosediving. I use a plain reference deliberately.
I want to take back some of what I said about it last week. The plane apparently could not land in most of the airports north of Sudbury. So half of the argument I was explaining, justifying it, just really didn't apply. But I think I said at the time, he lost you over wanting to buy it and he lost me over not buying it. But I also think he just lost a whole lot of people over how he walked away from it. It was the most petulant Doug Ford we have seen in a long, long time. It wasn't that he apologized, because he didn't really, but, I'm the most scrutinized person in the province, and Quebec has their fleet that they can fly around with, and you guys this, and it was just not the good look of Doug Ford, utterly unflappable, everyone's favorite uncle. It was not that. It was very first year of office Doug Ford, and that's not the good look for him. We remember where his polling numbers were when cranky Doug Ford was showing up, and we saw cranky Doug Ford. That's probably more about it than any specific issue of the plane. It's that voters rightfully got angry about something, and rather than responding in his traditional aw shucks way, he got rid of the plane, yeah, but he didn't do himself any favors in how he did it. Nasty Doug Ford does not do well in the polls.
He's free and clear till 2029. That's when there will be another provincial election. The Liberals are trying. Maybe it's Navdeep Bains, maybe it's Nate Erskine-Smith, but what does Doug Ford do to recover? Be less nasty?
Well, yeah, honestly, and also when the BC Conservative leadership race is over, Corey Teneycke will be back. And that adult in the room, I really can't underestimate how huge a difference and an influence he is to the positive side of Doug Ford.
So Corey Teneycke can advise Doug Ford more closely again, thus helping to...
Yes, yeah. I'm pretty sure if Corey Teneycke had been around, first of all, there would have been no plane purchase, but also the apology would not have been so horrible as it was.
This is what happens when the smart people leave the province.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Oh, dear, indeed. All right, we'll leave it on that note and always look forward to next week. Thank you, as always, for being here.
Are you around next week? Do we know the playoff schedule yet?
I'm around next week.
Okay.
Yep. Whether it's Barrie or Brantford, I will be doing the show.
Okay. I will see you then.
I look forward to it. David Drewe joins us Monday mornings at 11:30 to share his views on Drew's Views, which always leads us into a news update and open phone lines for your Monday rants or raves. Coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yaggity yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night. Yaggity yak.
Don't talk back.
Every day between noon and 1, we open the phone lines and give you the chance to talk back to us. Talk back at us. Get stuff off your chest and onto the air. Reflect on the issues of the day or tell us what you think should be the issue of the day. On Mondays, our Talkback Hour is reserved for your rants and or raves. It is tradition here on this program, well before this program began, but on this radio station, Mondays we set aside time so you can rant and or rave. You rant because you are upset about something. You rave because you are the opposite of upset. You are, in fact, very happy about whatever it is you want to tell us that you are happy about. That's a rave. A rant is something that's got you upset. Quickly, 2 rants. Sorry, but I got to be me from yours truly. One is the gong that has mysteriously disappeared from our Waterloo Regional Cancer Center in Midtown KW. This is the gong that cancer patients bang in celebration of ending their treatment. It is the sign of ultimate success, if you will. and it mysteriously disappeared in the overnight hours one day last week. Presumably, this gong was stolen, pilfered, thefted in the middle of the night. And I ask you, who on God's green earth would do such a thing? Who would take the gong that gets banged when a cancer patient completes their treatment at the Waterloo Regional Cancer Center? Who would do such a thing? Oh, that's got my knickers knotted today, let me tell you. My chaps, they are a chafin'. That is some kind of jackwagonry to steal that gong, presumably. The other thing that's kind of got me frustrated today was a story in my weekend paper. Thank you to the Waterloo Region Record for putting some numbers behind a problem that we know exists all too well, and that is the number of potholes on our roads this year. Unsurprisingly, pretty much across the board, the number of potholes this year is greater than in years past. And I think we can understand to some degree, given the severity of the winter, there wasn't really a lot of time to have clear enough streets to get some pothole patching done, because the same crews that do the pothole patching are the crews that clear the snow and maintain our roads over the winter, and there just wasn't enough time given the severity of the winter. So unsurprisingly, because we couldn't get anything patched during the winter, things are that much worse this spring. But here's where my real frustration sets in. We understand, I think, that the potholes are created by the old freeze-thaw cycle, right? Because if a little crack opens up in the road and then some water gets in there and it freezes, and then there's the expansion, and then it thaws, and then the hole is there. Like, it just, we understand how this has gone, right? With the freeze-thaw cycle. Here's the thing. I have been at this radio station in one way or t'other for more than a quarter century now. I made my first appearance here way back in 1999. I came back again in 2003, and then I came back for a third time. Blame the company, okay? I tried to leave. They kept bringing me back. No, I do love it, but if you want somebody to blame, you could have said, hey, you didn't have to hire that Farwell back a third time, but I've been back since 2007. And over all of those years, I have worked in various capacities, but I have on numerous occasions covered the pothole story because it's a rite of spring around here, just like it is in other municipalities. Here's the thing. As well-written and well-researched as that story was that I read in my weekend paper, you could have copied and pasted your story from a year ago and just changed the number of potholes, or from the year before that, or from the year before that, or from all the way back in 1999 when I first showed up as a reporter at this radio station. It's the same damn story every year. So you probably know more than me. In fact, I know that you know more than me. We just put people around the moon with the Artemis 2 mission, right? We did that. That shows the capability of the human race. How is it that year after year after year after year, we go through the same freeze-thaw cycle, pothole after pothole after pothole after pothole, and we never change the material that we are using to perhaps extend the life of the road, to perhaps prevent the potholes from appearing, or at least delay their inevitable arrival? I don't understand this. You could have taken this weekend's story and Waterloo Region Record, save it for next year. Just repaste the same story and change the numbers. It's the same damn thing every year. I have it on good authority that there's a company right here in Kitchener that has a much better way, they tell me, of patching potholes, and we don't use their technology. First, I don't know why, but I'm really getting at the actual asphalt or whatever it is we're using on the roads, and why we haven't, after all of these years, thought of something better. Because I'm kind of tired of the same damn story and the same damn slalom that I'm driving every damn spring. Pardon my French. I think maybe, just maybe, it's time we tried a different approach to road construction and road resurfacing. Is it just me? There's got to be something better, right? Because the definition of insanity, you know where I go with that. All right. I feel a little bit better. Those are the rants off my chest, and now you can do the same. Phone lines open to you at 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. We're going to start with Jersey Bill. Good afternoon, Billy.
Yes, and I'm happy to see the pattern that I saw with the Kitchener Rangers is held. So that means in this next upcoming series, whether it's against Barrie or Brantford, they could lose the second game after taking the first game, either at home against Barrie or away against Brantford, and go on for another 4-1 series win. And then, of course, that would lead them to the Memorial Cup, and maybe they can go back to their initial one where they ran the table against their first opponent and not lose a game in the Memorial Cup. That would be a great way to go.
I couldn't agree more, Billy. I hope the pattern continues into this OHL final.
And I'm sorry that the team that I'm fond of calling the Tampa Bay Palm Leafs didn't come through yesterday and defeat that team you didn't like. Also, just on the war front, it seems even though Mr. Trump is now he's going to send his Navy in to escort vehicles of torn vessels through that strait. Unfortunately, it's just been reported that the Iranians have started to fire missiles again. So, it's these are how quagmires develop, and unless you have people at the top who really understand what they need to do in order to alleviate the situation, it's just going to get worse and worse, I'm afraid.
Billy, appreciate the call. Always good to hear from you, especially the pattern continuing for those Kitchener Rangers. I like patterns. I like things working out that way. See if it continues. In the first round, the Rangers lost 0 games. In the second round, they lost once in Game 4. In the third round, they lost once in Game 3. So if the pattern continues, the Rangers can lose once in Game 2, but they only lose once. Fingers are crossed where I'm sitting right now. Larry, Farwell's Force, member number 54. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I see you got your parcel.
I got my parcel addressed to the Grand Poobah, and I have the button to prove that I am he, the Grand Poobah. Thank you.
That was created by the chat.
Sorry, that was created by what?
By AI.
Oh, my gosh. I was giving you credit for this stuff. Now, I don't know what. I don't want something artificial. I wanted it to come from your heart, Larry.
Well, I helped design it.
Okay. All right. You helped the AI design it. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Now you have something official that says you're the Grand Poobah.
Larry, thank you for that. As I've said many a time, I will not. You cannot make me run for office in this or any other town unless you create the position of Grand Poobah. And then and only then will I take my loyal order of water buffaloes and seek the ultimate political prize as Grand Poobah in this region. But at least, apparently thanks to AI, I now have the button to prove it. You can see the picture on our Facebook page. Just look up the Mike Farwell Show on Facebook, and I'm holding the button up right now if you're watching on Rogers TV Cable 20. There it is. I am the Grand Poobah. Kyle is next, Farwell's Force member number 6. Good afternoon, Kyle.
Good afternoon, AI. Who uses AI?
Who uses AI? Not this guy, I'll tell you.
No. Hey, first of all, what a beautiful Friday night, man. I mean, I was a little bit rough the next morning, but it was worth it to see how well the Kitchener Rangers did. We're going to the OHL finals, buddy. Can I not say that enough? We are going to the OHL finals, baby. I cannot wait. What a weekend. It was fantastic. And I cannot wait to, I'm waiting to get the tickets now. I just got to wait when they come out, and I'll be refreshing my page every 2 seconds until I can score some tickets for it. So I cannot wait. Let's go, Rangers, and go Habs, go!
Wow. You know what, Kyle? Penalty box, pal. Penalty box. You know better than that. You're in the penalty box, pal. Dan, you're next on Rant or Rave. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. Pleasure to talk to you. Kyle's all worked up. So were you, actually, about the potholes, and I'm in total agreement. But anyway, I didn't call to rant. I called to rave about you. I sent you an email, but what I wanted to know, you do a great job with the Kitchener Rangers. What I wanted to know is, are you involved in the broadcast at all, if and when, the Kitchener Rangers make it to the Memorial Cup? Like, as a local broadcaster, like, do you take part in that at all?
Dan, let me tell you something. Let me remind you of something, okay? You are listening to the home of your Western Conference champion, Kitchener Rangers. Where the team goes, we go.
Really? Even to Kelowna? And you go as well?
You got to hear the games, don't you?
Right on. I am so happy to hear that.
You and me both.
One last question, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Are you going to put your hat in for Joe Bowen's job?
No.
Why?
I love the job that I have. Don't tell my manager, because then they'll think they can keep paying me the same money for the rest of my life. But I love the job that I have.
It's funny because you talked about your career earlier, afternoon, and then I thought to myself, wow, wouldn't that be the natural progression of things for Mike to go on and become the voice of the Leafs? Wouldn't that be something?
No, hockey night in Kitchener. That's my dream come true, pal.
All right. You do a great job too, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Good to hear from you. I'm sorry I haven't responded to your email. I'm a little bit behind today, but I'm catching up, and we're taking calls on Rant or Rave, so keep them coming. Dennis, hang in there. Phil, I got you, and there's a line open for you too if you want to be a part of Rant or Rave this afternoon on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. On Mondays during your Talkback Hour, we rant and or rave. Rant because you're upset about something. Rave because you want to share something positive, sunny on this nice Monday afternoon. Back to the phones. Dennis, good afternoon.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you, sir?
Not too bad. I got to get you out on that boat. The motor broke down on me last week, but she's good and purring and running like a kitten now, so I'm holding you to it. We're going.
All right.
Now, the guy who stole that bell, send him to me.
You would like to do what? I was just waiting for what was coming next, Dennis. Send him to you because you're going to tar and feather and string him up by his toenails?
I ain't going to say what I do to him.
Okay.
Just send him to me. I'll guarantee you this. He'd never steal another bell.
I understand.
We lived it.
I know you did. And you're on the other side of it, and I'm glad you got to ring that gong.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Listening to the oldies stuff this morning, I got to correct you on one thing.
What's that?
On the Guess Who.
An American Woman. Yeah.
American Woman. The American Woman riff was not created at the Kitchener Auditorium.
The old Glenbrier Curling Club, right?
Exactly.
That's what I always thought. But I trust our musicologist. So.
Well, here's the thing. Do you trust him more than the bass player that was in the band when they created it?
It's an interesting piece of folklore. Let's just say this much. It happened here. We know that much.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, it happened at the Briar. I was talking to the bass player one day in Guelph, who was in the band at that time, and he told me exactly what happened. And it was a string broken in that, and the crowd was getting antsy, and so they just started this riff, and that's where it started.
Yeah,
was at the Briar.
Okay.
So, anyways, like you said, folklore.
Absolutely. Great to hear from you, my friend.
Yeah. We're going fishing.
Okay. All right, Dennis, thank you. And Dennis and his lovely grandson, his grandson was able to bang that gong, completing cancer treatment. So Dennis says if we ever catch the guy that took the gong, it's probably attempted to be sold for scrap, right? But Dennis has a few things that he would like to do. And yes, this week, or today on This Week in Music History, which we do every Monday morning at 11, we did talk about American Woman, that signature riff, the broken string that led to it. I had always heard Glenbrier Curling Club in Waterloo as well, which is now the Glenbrier Home Hardware, on Weber Street North. But there was also a reference to a curling club in Scarborough, so who knows over the years. I've also heard Randy Bachman tell the story and say he went back to the Walper Hotel to finish off the song that night in downtown Kitchener who knows? All we know for sure, and you know how stories go, urban legends travel through the years, but what we know for sure is that the riff and then ultimately the rest of the song, it all began, the story of American Woman by the Guess Who, right here in the fine city of Kitchener. You look great today, Kitchener. And you know what, Cambridge? You look all right, too. Proud of you. All right, Phil is next from Stratford. Good afternoon, Phil. You're on Rant or Rave.
Good afternoon, my friend. Number 81 here.
I love a good Farwell's Force member. Thank you, buddy.
Just went through the car wash, and I know how you feel about car washes. It's like raisins and butter tart.
But I mean, it's a car. Does it still drive if it's dirty? Yes, it drives.
Yeah, but it's one of the second most expensive things you own, so it needs a little more care.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right. I just overheard that Glenbrier story. When you go into that Home Hardware, in the front vestibule, they even have a plaque acknowledging that song.
Oh, I've never even noticed. I can't believe I haven't noticed that before.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll watch.
The reason I'm phoning you today, my rave is this. In New Hamburg, Ontario, is the Mennonite thrift store.
Yes, it is.
The place is immaculate. The staff are professional. The inventory is well marked, and it doesn't smell like a dirty laundry hamper in there. They accept your donations with a smile. And it's May, so they have a plant sale. It's just a pleasure to donate there and buy if you must.
Phil, it's a lovely sentiment. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that rave. You talk about the staff at that Mennonite thrift store in New Hamburg. You want to know why? Because there's some Farwell blood in there. That's why. That's right. My cousin, the way better Farwell blood than the Farwell blood that gets on this microphone every day. But let me tell you how great she is. And she is working at that very thrift store, providing that very quality customer service to you and ensuring that the inventory is ready for your perusal. Because that's how Farwell blood works. The good Farwell blood, anyway, not the Farwell blood that turns on this microphone every day. All right, I've got to get you to the 570 News Center for an update, but hang in there. We're going to come right back and start taking more of your calls on Rant or Rave. My mission is always to get to as many calls as I can. You rant because you're upset. You rave because you ain't. And you do both of those things with one phone call to us here on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. On Mondays, your Talkback Hour is reserved for rants and or raves. Rant because you're upset about something. Rave because you've got something positive to share. Let's get right back to the phones. Kathy is with us. Good afternoon, Kathy.
Hi, Mike.
Kathy, are you a first-time caller?
Yes.
Yes! I love that, Kathy. Welcome to the show.
Okay. How do these people pick the numbers to be on your show?
You want a Farwell's Force number, Kathy?
Sure.
Yeah, well,
sure.
You know what? Here's the thing. We just started doing them in sequence, one, and we're up to 378. But if you would like to pick a number of your own, you're welcome to do that.
Okay, 378.
So you could be 379 or some other number of your choosing.
How about, 288 would already be taken, right?
Yes, we're all the way up to 378 in sequence.
378, okay. Let's say 400 then.
400. Now let me see, because I've got some random numbers in here. And has anybody claimed 400 yet? They have not. Kathy, it is all yours.
Okay,
now,
thank you.
What's the first letter of your last name?
B, as in Bradley.
Okay. I got you. Kathy B. I hope you know, though, Kathy, you are required to do something as a member of Farwell's Force.
Yes.
You have to listen for 15 minutes every day.
I do.
Oh, well, then bless your heart. Welcome aboard. You're number 400.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I heard that the Brantford-Barrie game will...
Where did Kathy go? Kathy? Kathy? Where did Kathy go? Oh my gosh, she's still there, but we're not... Something happened to Kathy's phone. Kathy, one more time. Are you there? Okay, I'm going to put Kathy back on hold. Jen, can you please pick up the phone and see if you can reconnect with Kathy on your side? And I'm going to go over here to Francis next and talk to Farwell's Force member number 36 from God's Country out there in Listowel.
Hi there, Mike. I know you're doing great. I got a kind of a two-part thing here.
Okay.
I mean, it's everything as far as potholes to be done right. And I won't get into it because I used to help fill potholes and what have you when I worked in Kitchener. The big thing is, as you know, I'm as old as dirt. Mother Nature is going to win. We used to pick stones from the same field for years, at least 20 years, and every year there'd be more stones coming up. And that's because Mother Nature has frost in the ground, and it just pushes those stones up no matter what you do. And like I say, Mother Nature will win out in the end. With that, I'll say God bless and keep on going.
Thank you, Francis. I appreciate that. And listen, I get it. I have the utmost respect for Mother Nature and what she's capable of. But surely to goodness, as human beings who are in possession of the greatest supercomputer on the planet, which is that thing between our ears, we have not yet figured out a way, some kind of material that, if not stopping Mother Nature in her frost-heaving tracks, can at least slow down the progress of potholes. Maybe that could be a slogan for somebody running in the municipal election. Stopping the pothole progress. Can we try? Who's with me? And how about this? Throwing out another suggestion for you here. How about you revert to the old way of waste collection in this region? Huh? I hate those carts. I really hate those damn carts. By the way, in Waterloo, please ensure in the city of Waterloo that the City of Waterloo Council remains scot-free. If you are in the city of Waterloo and you see the name Scott on your ballot, I would strongly encourage you to not mark an X beside it. At the very least, do your due diligence. If somebody named Scott comes to your door in Waterloo and asks for your support in the municipal election, ask them what record from the public school board they are standing on to earn that vote. Just worth asking. Marianne is next on Rant or Rave. Good afternoon, Marianne.
Hi, Mike. I have a couple of things related, but this is to do with the first round of the playoffs in NHL, and you had a Canadian team, which you don't want to
That's right.
name.
Be careful, Marianne. I don't want to have to hang up on you.
Well, I think Glenn Pelche. Congratulations, Glenn. I think that's your team. I
love it. I was just talking about Glenn Pelche with another coworker in the hallway. That's awesome.
There you go, Glenn. I'm happy for you. So I was listening to your station yesterday morning, and I was just really surprised. They said the Raptors do or die Game 7.
Yeah.
Then they mentioned, and this is coming taped at 680 News, I guess. They mentioned the Hurricanes beating the Flyers in the first game of the second round, but they did not mention the Game 7 of a Canadian team at all, which I found that was a big omission. So I called in. I talked to somebody at your station. He called the person doing the sports. About an hour and a half later, that was modified, thankfully, and that team won. And the Raptors did not. But I was just shocked that that happened. And the other thing, sort of related, is it's maybe in the same vein where if somebody's eating and enjoying a plate of scrambled eggs and you're sitting there, you say, I hate eggs, that is not appropriate. I heard somebody helping someone eat at the nursing home. She was eating some beef, and she said, the person helping the resident said, I hate beef, while the resident is eating it and enjoying it. Just my 2 cents worth, okay?
Okay, Marianne. Thanks for sharing.
you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Okay, bye now. First of all, we all make mistakes. I'm glad that Marianne, you caught what was an obvious mistake and oversight here at the station yesterday, and that we were able to correct it at some later point in the morning. And thank you. I can hear your passion. You're all Canada all the time, and I get it. And I feel a little bit badly for that, but not too badly, because as somebody who grew up a Leafs fan and remains a Leafs fan to this day, don't even get me started on the goofy decision that my team just made after a disaster of a season. They've decided they're going to hire somebody that's never worked in a front office before in Matt Sundin. He was a great player. He never won anything, but he was a great player. And then a general manager who's been on the wrong side of NHL law. Sure. Anyway, that's a mess. But I cannot, in good conscience, Marianne, I'm sorry, as a Leafs fan, say anything nice about the team that shall not be named on this show. So I appreciate you. I'm glad you're happy for Glenn Pelche. I was happy for Glenn Pelche the day I met him working at this radio station. And I'll just move on from there. Willie is next on Rant or Rave. Willie, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Farwell, force number 1701.
I love it.
May the 4th be with you.
And to you, sir. Star Wars Day. Yeah.
It is. It is. September 8th will be Star Trek Day. So just so you know.
Okay. I'll remember. Why is that? 10:08?
That 60 years ago was the first episode airing.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. You're interesting. You're rather upset about the potholes. I have read an interesting story online, which I thought I would share with you. In Denmark, I believe it is, or Holland, they are experimenting with using recycled plastics as a road structure that they produce in a factory, and then they put it on instead of asphalt. It has a lot of benefits besides less energy consumption and all that kind of stuff, but it also has an estimated 40-year life. It doesn't freeze, doesn't thaw, doesn't get potholes, and the way they produce it, it has a web structure underneath where you can run all your services. Sounded absolutely brilliant. I hope they're testing it right now. I hope somebody here was listening about that.
See, Willie, this is thank you for sharing that, because this is exactly what I thought. Like, we are incredibly resourceful beings, right? Why do we go through this every year?
Well, exactly. Plus, one of the biggest problems we have in the world is where you have all this plastic garbage that's going everywhere, right? So here you can take a portion of it, recycle it, put it to use. It sounds like a brilliant idea. I pray to God that it works, because I think we should have that here in our country.
I will join you in that prayer, and I will even find this company and invest in it. Let's get this happening.
Okay.
Thanks, Willie.
Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye. Great to hear from you. You see, I knew it, and I always say, you are far more intelligent than I. Clearly far better read. But in my mind, when I read the pothole story this weekend, I realized that it's the same ding-dang pothole story that we've been telling for my 25-plus years at this station. Well, it's the freeze-thaw cycle. It's the freeze-thaw cycle. Have we ever, in those 25-plus years, thought, is there a material that we could use on our roads that is more resistant to this freeze-thaw cycle? I know it's going to freeze and thaw. I get the cycle. I'm wondering why we have not yet tried to use another material that might be less susceptible to this freeze-thaw cycle. And Willie comes through in fine form. Let's get this material. Let's get it out of Denmark and onto roads here in North America, please, and thank you. Dylan, you're next on Rant or Rave. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I got 2 quick raves. First rave is for my wife and my sister and many other people who helped raise $1.46 million for WWF this weekend, climbing the stairs of the CN Tower.
Whoa. That's impressive, my friend.
Yeah, 1,700 steps. Both of them did it in just over 30 minutes. I rode the elevator to cheer them on at the top.
Attaboy.
Second rave, you actually made me think of it, and it's the garbage carts. I was initially opposed to this whole garbage cart debacle for many reasons. Everyone's went over. But now that we've had them for a couple weeks, I actually really like them. And I'm in a different situation than many. I have a spot in my garage. The 2 bins go against the wall. There's a shelf above that where the recycling bins sit, just inside the man door, so it's easy access to throw things out. I wheel the carts to the end, come back, I wheel them in. I don't have to use big garbage bags to collect the little garbage bags anymore because they all just go into the bin. The one complaint I have about the new system is the recycling being biweekly. I fill those great big bins every week. So now I have 2 sets. I have 4 recycling bins. So after a week, the first 2 are full. I got to put them somewhere, start filling the second set. I wish they would go back to weekly recycling.
Dylan, appreciate the call. What a great story on the climbing of the CN Tower. Way to go, Dylan's wife and sister, for taking on that challenge, 1,776 steps. I would have been doing what Dylan done. I'll get in that elevator and I'll be having a coffee by the time you get to the top. That's impressive stuff. Way to go. That's putting your heart, literally, because you're going to need some cardio to go up those stairs, where your donations go. That's fantastic. And I want to. And I keep telling myself, yeah, wheeling the bin to the curb is easier than carrying it and this and that. But every time I go to the basement to fill up the recycling bin, I curse. Every time I wheel one of those bins to the curb, even though I'm wheeling it, they're clunky. And I'm not lucky enough to have the garage to put the things in. And I have too been in that situation where instead of the 2 big blue bins every other week, there are additional blue bins that have to go out because bi-weekly doesn't seem to cut it for the recyclables. Less service, same money. I'm not a fan. I want to be. And after a very, very bumpy rollout, yes, things have improved, but I got no time for this nonsense. It was fine before. I think we took a program that was working and we are delivering less service now and made it difficult on people. I cannot stand the sight of those bins at the end of my driveway, but that's just me. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Maybe you think my place looks great. Come on over anytime. We'll talk about it, as we do every Monday from noon until 1. We rant, we rave on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Every Monday, your Talkback Hour is the chance for you to rant and or rave. You rant because you're upset about something. You rave because you want to share something positive. We are here to take your calls. Walter, you're next. Rant or rave?
Third here, my friend.
Sorry, Walter. I didn't even hear the beginning of that. Try again. Oh, Walter. Walter's phone is about as good as Kathy's phone before. Yeah, and Walter's gone. Kathy joined Farwell's force in one of the sweetest ways anybody has ever joined our force for good, our force for change, our force to be reckoned with. Called into the show for the first time, wanted to be assigned a number, chose number 400, she's got it, and then her phone let us down. Kathy, if you're still there, try us back, because I really wanted to hear you were talking something you wanted to know about the hockey game tonight in Brantford between the Bulldogs and the Barrie Colts. The winner of that game will face our Kitchener Rangers in the OHL final starting on Wednesday. But we have to wait for the winner of that game first. And we even have to wait for the winner of that game to determine where the Rangers will be playing on Wednesday night. If Barrie wins the game tonight, the Kitchener Rangers are going to play at the Memorial Auditorium on Wednesday. If Brantford wins tonight, we'll travel down Highway 24 and play in Brantford on Wednesday night. Either way, we know the Rangers are next in action on Wednesday night. Dave is next on Rant or Rave. Good afternoon, Dave.
Good afternoon, Mike. My first time calling.
Oh, well, Dave, a first-time caller, you know what that means.
Yes.
All right, buddy, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
What's on your mind?
I want to rave about the Cambridge Winterhawks winning the Sutherland Cup.
Oh, Dave, you're showing your age there. They're the Red Hawks now, but I'm with you, buddy.
Yeah, Red Hawk. I know. I'm used to volunteering with all of them.
No, I get you. And how about that? One game. They lost one game the entire playoff.
Yes, and they were also 61-6 for the whole year.
45 regular season wins. Incredible stuff. And they got a shout out on Hockey Night in Canada this weekend.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's great being a volunteer with them. And I also want to throw a shout out to St. Mary's, who were a very well-disciplined and respectful team.
I like to hear that. Somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. That's the nature of sports, but you can lose with dignity.
Yes, that's true. So that's my rave for the day.
Thanks, Dave. Great to hear from you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
One of those longtime volunteers that keep hockey happening and all kinds of different things. We have a really strong spirit of volunteerism around these here parts. Barbara, you're next on Rant or Rave. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. How are you doing today on this beautiful sunny day?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Go Rangers.
You betcha.
I'm calling to update folks on something I've been saying for a long time, but I got more information. So I've been saying for a long time about the region of Waterloo that they are not just responsible for water, they are responsible for sewers. And I heard your guest, Karen, that was on this morning, who did a great job, by the way. She kept saying the water crisis. So I reviewed the Municipal Act, which is the legislation which is passed by the provincial government, and then they give powers to the regional governments and the local governments. And right in the Municipal Act, it talks about what the responsibilities are for regional governments. And for some reason, they're different in each region. But for the region of Waterloo, responsibility for sewers, not just sewage treatment, but sewers, is shared with the local municipalities. So it's a fact, folks. We're responsible for, region is responsible for sewer and water. And we can't just not do sewer because we don't feel like it. That's not going to be good enough for me, Mike. How about you?
Not at all, Barbara. Thank you very much for filling us in on that. Barbara has been consistent in her approach in that regard. And there you go. Something else that our region is responsible for, something else that we should be aware of as we are now into a municipal election campaign. To that end, a mayoral hopeful in Cambridge will join our show tomorrow. Plus, we're into Mental Health Month. And we will tell you on the show tomorrow the story of the traveling Kitchener Rangers jersey and the story behind that worn by a local man and lots more. So I invite you to join me again tomorrow morning right here starting at 9 a.m. My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.